Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
With us today also, special guest, Andy Francess of You're Still Here, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. You got to be very specific with that. Andy, how are you? How are you this
off? This off season, I'd say it was a pretty great off season. You know, obviously the last time I checked in with you guys, it was kind of more of the BS podcast when we were watching Game 6 of the Toronto Lightning series, and then we watched Game 6. I did think when it ended in the Stanley Cup Finals, and obviously I was kind of looping you into that job that I took for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I made quite a bit. So much to the point now that they're making me take over your sport, TJ. I'm coming in now for NFL picks starting Friday.
Look at
that. So when you do right by the people, they do right by you. And that's not even true. You can do right by people and get screwed for years on end. However, they seem to like what I was bringing to the table over there at Odds Shopper. So I'll be starting that on Friday for NFL. So it's been a good off season. I'm building a second studio here. I apologize that it's not done. I just started building it yesterday. It should be done in a few days, but makeshift. I mean, come on, Grumpy's sitting on a random leather couch. I think we're all right.
Exactly. I've tried to go ahead as the off season has started. I've tried to look like myself as a more learned individual by stacking books. My wife stacks books behind there, so maybe I give the facade for first time listeners that I maybe read until they hear me read the comments and they say, "There's no way he's reading those books." But yes, welcome everybody to the show. Sorry we're running late. I take blame as always. I'm the one who keeps us late. There's no doubt about that.
What a shocker.
So for those of you who are new to the show and the channel, welcome. This is a twice a week Islanders podcast that takes place every Wednesday and Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You might as well just call that TJ Standard Time. We try to go live at 8. At least I try to. Grumpy's always ready.
It's one thing if you shave time and then it's just like you don't make it up on the back end. But if you make it up on the back end, relax. Hey, how dare you make us wait for that absolutely free show that we did nothing to deserve and demand on time?
My whole thing is, maybe I'm just old school, which I am. If you tell somebody a certain time, be there at that time, TJ.
I know.
And try that when try that with an attractive woman. See how that works out for you. You keep them waiting or you're finished.
Sorry. You by yourself again? Did you get dumped again?
He's at the Patrice O'Neill school of thought, Grumpy. That's all it is.
He's hilarious. No.
He's hilarious,
I'm just messing around. I'm just trying to come up with some analogies to get TJ off the hook. And you could say all you want about having a whatever mediocre backdrop, but you have a God-given voice that I guess, I don't know, according to you, it was ruined because, I don't know, you can't read.
Yeah, that's where the struggle comes in. So, it's like when they say they give a guy, what do they say, like $100 talent and a 10-cent brain. It's kind of like that, except with the reading, the auditory portion. But yes, if you're new to the channel, make sure if you liked it, number one, we invite you to stick around a while. If you like it, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. Also, you can find all of Andy's information. You'll be able to find his YouTube channel. You'll be able to find where he has his podcast, right? You'll be able to find You're Still Here, right? That's linked in the description below. You'll be able to find his TikTok for all those people who are, on social media. You'll be able to find TikTok, Twitter, anything and everything on there. So make sure you give Andy a check out and listen as well.
The beautiful thing is I'm not one of those guys like, Andy Francess _ #5, the real it's just Andy Francess on every single platform. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be. If you want to come find me, but if you don't want to come find me, I'm always skeptical about too many people finding me. I'm always worried. I look backwards when I walk down the block because I'm always a little worried about who's going to find a little something on me. But if you guys like to laugh and you like sports, between the podcast and then the sports gambling videos I do, I think you'll find a couple things to enjoy. I, like these two jackals, am from Long Island, which means there's an inherent level of misery that's buried deep inside me. So if you are of a similar mindset, I think you'll find some stuff that you enjoy.
So are you any good with the football picks?
The problem is, I was telling this to Phil. I can't. I like TJ so much that I would never say that, even though I'm a hockey guy, there is a chance I may do better at football than him. I know. I don't want to.
Damn, I might have to. I want to almost just compete. I don't gamble, but I need to compete now.
No, you're exempt. Like, how there are UFC fighters who refuse to fight somebody in the division? That's who you are to me, TJ. There are so few great people out there that I don't mess with the few that are.
Well, Ronda Rousey challenged TJ and he said no.
I
think he's just afraid of getting his ass kicked by a woman.
Back to that again. Also, I always forget to mention this too. Tony Cheese has started an Islanders Never Say Die in TJ and the Grumpy Old Man clips channel. So if you don't have time to watch sometimes 3.5 hours, and you just want to click a little snippet, Tony Cheese does a good job of gathering that, the outrageous grumpy moments.
Who is that Sopranos outcast? Tony Cheese?
Tony Cheese. Tony Cheese. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm happy he abbreviates it as Cheese because I wouldn't be able to pronounce his last name. It's like some sort of, I don't know.
No, I like that.
But Tony takes care of it. Make sure you check it out. Also, we have a second podcast we do on Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Can be found as well in the link in the description below, and also as a feature page on our YouTube channel. You can find it TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. But man, Grumpy, a lot of plugs here before we actually get to the meat and potatoes of the podcast and the show.
Well, I mean, the last time we talked to Andy, the Islanders had done nothing, and we're still there right now. So it's not like he's really missed anything.
I am going to. I want to say this is going to be the third time, and I'm not going to mess up this time. I not interrupt you guys with my rants. And I say this now. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. No,
he will.
No,
it's what you do best.
It's good. It's like telling when you got somebody who's he's got the gift of gab and you got a silver tongue like that, you don't interrupt them. You just let him go. You just say, "I'm here for the show. I'm here for the show as well."
It's one thing if you guys were on mine, but I walk into your domain and start cutting people off. That's what pricks do. So we're gonna see if
it's true.
It is. Look, it is. It is.
Oh, good. Grumpy's now going to try to put your ass to the test. I can tell by his face. He's going to try to put you to the test on something like that.
It's fine.
I don't have to do anything. Andy will do it to himself. I don't have to do anything.
I am not remotely worried. I remember shitting my pants outside of Warner Brothers for some ABC Family, like in retrospect, it was some silly audition. But all those times of just getting randomly nervous and working myself up, I can assure you the person who's not going to put me over the edge is, quote unquote, the grumpy old man.
The grumpy old man. Let me ask you,
Like I
Andy.
said,
Now,
I'll just let him shoot himself in the foot like he always does. I don't have to do anything. I'll just smirk at him and he'll do it. It's all right.
let me ask you this, Andy. I saw you've been getting into it a little bit online with some of the brilliant minds on Twitter talking about what it would look like if the Islanders brought in Nazem Kadri. Now, I think that you're in high regard of Nazem Kadri. You think he's going to be a great addition. He's going to put us over the top and help us win a Stanley Cup. Andy, I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Islanders. Apparently, it seems like rumored and very heavily rumored to possibly signing Nazem Kadri this offseason.
The oxymoron known as the brilliant minds on Twitter. I mean, just it actually goes back to some of the previous things. I guess maybe we'll address whatever it is that they said individually, but it goes back to previous things that I said to you guys. How do I want to approach this? Is Kadri going to make the Islanders, like if there was, you know how in NHL, the video game, it gives a team number for a rank, you know, up to 100 or whatever. Is it going to make them an 84 opposed to an 83 or an 87 opposed to an 86? Sure. But he, without a shadow of a doubt, is a supplementary player, not a primary player, a supplementary player. And when you're allocating that percentage of your salary cap to somebody who's a supplementary player, and if somebody is even thinking about saying, oh no, like he's a really, because how many people were clamoring for him 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? You look up the top 100 players in the NHL, everyone's all excited before the season. He's nowhere to be found. Why? Because he's a supplementary player. What's the main complaint that people have about the team? You guys say it all the time. Oh, all these 30s forwards score 20, score 50. We need this. And what do? And this is what most of the people are saying too. We get yet another 32 goal, 20 or max 32 goal. This isn't Tarasenko. I was on this place last year saying Tarasenko is a great, his peak is above 40, 45 when he's playing at his best. And we knew he was motivated because of the shoulder injury, and he's going to need a new contract after this year. So it's not like I was against the forward, but the overselling of Kadri's ability, if you are a gambling man, and we all know that I did quite a bit of that over the playoffs, would you bet that this is going to be Kadri's best year or his second best year or if you had to Family Feud rank where this upcoming year would be at age 32 on a new team that typically has less offensive output than both of the previous two teams that he was on, what are you going to bet on? You're going to bet on that he's going to match the production from playing on those previous two teams? You're probably not. And then how about the following season? It's only going to be trending down. So now you're going to be one of those people, and these were some of the orcs that I saw online, who goes, forget about later, it's about winning now. And we're so close that we're about 12th when it comes to odds to win the cup. Wow. You can't just convince yourself that they're right there and Kadri's going to put him there. They have to prove that they can even get back to right there, because the very thing that I told you guys, what should be the primary issue, and you could check this on the episode, I said the defense was going to be the issue. Those people last year who fakely said the defense was good, not this past season, the one before, because we played that scam division, 18 games versus Buffalo and New Jersey, and then you saw how porous the defense was versus the quality teams during the season and in the playoffs, but they got outchanced in series. Like you guys have talked about the Pittsburgh series, should have lost that series. The Boston series, they got lucky. All the writing was on the wall. The defense needed to be clogged up. They lost Taves. You go look at the playoffs from 2020. They were giving up under 30 shots a game. I bring this up every single time. Last year, not this past season, the one before, they're conceding 50 shots every game. Yes, they made it one game further than the previous year. And yes, it was nice to see, but you're out of your mind if you don't think that they should have won that first series. Like, they should have lost that first series. This is a known thing. And they most likely should have lost that second series when Carlo left. That changed the dynamics and complexion of that whole series. But the defense was their undoing, not that random forward. And still here we are a year later, everyone yelling for that forward, not worried about the defense at all. They think the reason the Islanders team defense is awful is because Zdeno Chara's big guy lugging around out there. Yeah, it was a downgrade, but that wasn't the reason they lost. And I guess I'll just circle back. That random forward who's going to net you, 7 extra goals than whoever they're going to have to get rid of him for. Beauvillier, what would Beauvillier maybe have scored 20 this year, 22, and Kadri maybe gets up to 20-something playing with Barzal. Oh, yeah, great. And let's just hope he doesn't get suspended in the playoffs like he's done 2 times. Not 20 years ago, 1 year ago or 1.5, and then a couple of years before that. It's ridiculous. These you know what they are? They're people, all these fans who are defending Kadri. Your wife is beating you, or your husband's beating you, and you're just defending him to your friends. Like, no, you don't understand his job. Like, he comes home and they're so hard on him. So, I have to take a little backhand every once in a while. You're a justifier because it's your team, and you'll defend anything they do, whether it's right or wrong, and may God have mercy on your soul. So there you go. There's a nice little chunk. I went in and out, but that's a random batch of thoughts I have about the situation. Good luck with 37-year-old Nazem Kadri. No, but the other contracts are going to be cleared by then. Oh, yeah, let's just factor in you don't have to pay anyone else along the way. What a nightmare. What a nightmare.
I like that. I like the way it is. It's kind of like that's what Islander fans are doing, is they're going to justify any move we make. There's always a certain sect of the Islander fans who do that, no matter what is. Oh, well, this is how this is a good move for us. They'll start off with plan A, then we'll go to their second best scenario, third, fourth, and now with the current scenario, we're probably at scenario 7 or 8, and they're still going to try to conceptualize and try to pontificate how this is going to be a good scenario for us. This is how it's going to work. But
no, it's all going to be good. Like this 6th beating my husband gave me is going to be the last, and then after that, we're going to straighten it all out. What a joke! Sorry, I need to come back with a lighter analogy.
No, I like the real. What do you?
Andy has had no communication with humans for the last 3 weeks.
With Islander fans, that's for certain.
He's a little on edge right now, as you can tell, which is all right. Now, let's talk about the positives, though, Andy. I like the move bringing in Romanov. I think that's a good move for the now and the future, which is all I really care about.
I'm a huge fan of things that get jobs done that nobody claps for, happens behind closed doors, and then subtly an issue is resolved. But your average person's too stupid to see it. They need big glaring things in front of their face, because it's partially not their fault. In Long Island, I don't care what these Islander fans say. Like one of these carnies that was arguing with me called me a dolt, this, that, and the other. I look at his profile. Where's Islanders buried 4th between like the Dallas Cowboys and this, that? This guy doesn't know hockey. He couldn't pick 4 corners if his life depended on it. He's going to tell me about. You get these people, they just simply, and it's not their fault. You grow up on Long Island, it's the smallest sport. They just don't know hockey, which is why they watch that. I'll never pronounce it right. So tell me the Finnish prospect's name.
Atu Ratu.
Yeah. So he just literally takes a shot, and one times it off the boards, like, all in one motion. It goes in, and these Islander fans, including the analysts, are losing their mind because it happened to hit like the upper post or something like that. Meanwhile, a goalie should have just shuffled to his side, had his shoulder on the post, and it goes nowhere. They're so stupid that they've now transcended even being worthy of a response. Like if someone on the street started yelling, "You 2 + 2 is 20," you just wouldn't even respond. They're out of their minds. Like it's not even worthy of a response. Here's how I know it's true, by the way. Anytime I talk to like hockey people, like my brother plays hockey here at the University of Tampa. Like everybody is easily on the same page when they see these things. And then you just see these out of touch fans, short for fanatic, which is always why I'll say I'm an Islander supporter.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, Andy, you have moved from Long Island, right? I just see you just trashing Long Island. Anyone who lives there,
no,
I'm cool with. I'm cool with. But I've never seen this vitriol for you against all people from Long Island.
No, not at all.
I'm not saying it's because you moved and now you're talking mad smack because it's a long trip down. Because I know these people probably going to be like want to physically accost you. So,
like I told you, well, I said I have the inherent Long Island misery buried in me. Like, this is what I say about people from Long Island. I told this to a girl I was hanging out with, and she just laughed. People from Long Island are the kind of people where if your son tells you that, like, hey, Dad, I want to be an actor, they like are disappointed and try to steer him away from that, rather than be supportive of like some eccentric thing. That's a Long Island like persona for you.
That's true.
You're classic. However, I think
you can do these things, Nemo, but you can't.
I think I fall into the trap, and this is not just with sports or anything. You tend to believe that the prism known as Twitter is actually indicative of the way things are. But like when I went to the conference final game, the last game in the Coliseum, it was one of the most joyous occasions ever. The Islander fans were not. It's when they have to espouse their opinions in characters that actually have to demonstrate what they know about the game. If you see somebody cheering and stuff like that, but it's then when they weigh in with limited knowledge, and I know that's relatively insulting, but I mean, I blame Phil for a lot of it because I intentionally don't follow any of these people. And Phil, whatever he comments, I see, and I go, what idiot wrote that? What idiot wrote that? If it wasn't for Phil, I wouldn't see any of this stuff. So I blame him.
I've never seen any of it at all. Maybe it's because I have no social media presence. So I don't, as you get older, you try not to deal with things that make you too angry. It's just not worth it. Of course. It's not healthy.
But you had mentioned the scam division, and I remember when you had come on last offseason, you had talked about how that we were very fortunate to have played Buffalo and that miserable Devils team, a handful of games. What was it, 16 games or however many games it was? We were very, we benefited from it a big way. I remember that nobody else was talking about it at the time period, and we had discussed, hey, the defense was going to be, they were going to have holes on it, and we brought Chara and we brought Green back. We're like, my God, there's going to be holes on the defense side of the puck. I mean, you were one of the first people that were kind of to discover that and to talk about that. And not many people still talk about it now, but I think it rings ultimately true when you look at the success this team's had and moving us to, the playoffs and being that cup contender, or that team that made it that one game further.
The second thing that nobody talks about, and I don't know if maybe you're hesitant to attribute some of it to this, but I hope you guys watch most of the playoffs, right? Yep. And it's fine if you didn't.
Yeah.
Did you see how the Rangers looked by Game 6 against Tampa?
Mm-hmm.
I could moonwalk faster than them.
Yep.
So now give the Rangers a condensed offseason this offseason, then have them go to the conference finals next year in a couple of grueling series, and then give them another shortened offseason. How are they going to do the following season after that? Tampa Bay was held together by duct tape in that last series. When they announced all their injuries after that, long runs in the modern NHL, look how Carolina looked opening against Boston, flying, relentless forecheck. And then by that Rangers series, they looked finished by game, I'd say like 5, 6. 6.
It was their goaltending. I thought their goaltending was horrible.
It is, but just watching the forecheck, it was game 1 versus Boston, game 2 versus Boston. It was like, my God, you didn't have a second before someone was on you. Well, and then just they slowed down. All I'm trying to say is 2 condensed off seasons. It's not like we had one round. Well, we played an extra round against Florida. That's playoffs. So we played 4 rounds.
Well, I think that was just
by 3 rounds.
I think that against Florida was just a play-in game. Was that even 2 games?
It was
the
a best of 5 series.
Best of 3.
5.
Okay.
Yeah, best
I don't
of
remember
5.
whatever it was, but like when I look at it, it's not. It wasn't a traditional, right? They had COVID that split the season, and it was that truncated year to where they had how many weeks off? What was it, like 2 months or month or 2 months off when COVID hit really full swing?
But remember, I'm not, because people who get mad at those fake excuses, I actually agree with most of that. I think it's the aforementioned one, the lingering injuries and wear and tear. Paggio didn't look like himself most of the year. These guys logged so many minutes, and they're not regular minutes, man. Just watch some of these playoff games, those Tampa Rangers games, the Carolina Boston series. These guys are murdering each other. When we played Philly, it was grueling. We played Washington. They're another hard-hitting team. That was grueling. Then Boston, it's like everything takes a little something out of you. And to not have a regular playoff offseason. So you have a shortened offseason because you went deep, and then an even shorter one because they're trying to get back to October. That's what I believe cursed them, because as you guys know, many of the players, not all of them, are, late 20s, early 30s. They need that time. And that is a huge reason, along with the defense. And then you could add in those things about the COVID and the this and the that.
I just want to disagree with you when you talk about the Hurricanes. They dominated Boston because Boston has a team very similar to ours. They
didn't dominate them. They got their ass kicked in every road game.
They wound up winning every home game, and they carried the action. I think they still don't know how to win yet. But I'm just talking about the forecheck. I think their forecheck is really effective against teams like Boston, like ourselves, teams that are a little bit slower. And I think that's where they struggle against the Rangers, because the Rangers do have some pretty good team speed as well. And I think I agree with you with the combination of, just the grind of the playoffs, but I also think styles have something to do with it as well.
Yeah, definitely. But the problem is they look very good. I mean, like
their goaltending was, they playing a third string goalie by the end. So, I mean,
yep.
Now, have you, Andy, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen so many goalies get injured in the playoffs? I've never remembered it. So many goalies being hurt in the playoffs.
How about just in general? Like, for example, you guys, the NFL guys, like, I mean, Grumpy, you saw people take launched coming over the middle shots to the head. They'd be back in there the next play.
Oh, yeah. You didn't miss any time.
Quarterbacks. And now it's like, preseason, for example, a guy, rolls his ankle. He's done. It's like people are finished right away. There's something weird. I don't know. You think it's preservatives?
Here's what it is. Here's the most contracts. You're not going to see NFL teams. They have so much money invested in these players that they don't want to run the risk. Where back in the day, they were paying the players peanuts, and the players knew that if we weren't on the field, we were going to get cut. I mean, you look at the salaries in the NFL compared to what they were back 30, 40 years ago, and there is no comparison. So the guys, they're like, you know what? We got to get out there if we want to keep our job. Now, with the guaranteed money given out to players, they can afford to be like that. And the ownership's paying them so much, like, let's not take a risk. They used to play 6 exhibition games every year, 6. And the starters played every single game.
But as far as the goalies, because I hate, people are probably pissed off using the football analogy. It is very weird. Maybe it's a recency bias. I'm just trying to think if there's a, there was that the Carey Price Kreider. It's like it's tough to remember in earlier rounds that playoff. So just because it's so fresh in our head, it's tough to remember. Yeah, there were quite a bit.
You think about it, like if you go down all the teams, I mean, pretty much most of them. I mean, Colorado, right? Kemper had that little bit where he got poked in the eye. He missed some time. I don't think Nashville had to worry about any injuries there to Saros. I know Binghamton was out for the Blues.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. There was a whole.
Well, you had Anderson who was trying to come back for Carolina. I mean, so you could even count like they didn't have their goalie,
and then they lost their second string goalie as well.
Pittsburgh
had
goaltending issues there with health. Yeah, my gosh.
Domingue, their third stringer wound up having okay, let's be honest. Pittsburgh, if they had their regular goalie, would have beaten the Rangers in the first round.
By the way, So that's a great example. See, it sucks because if a Ranger fan sees this, they get to easily dismiss it as an Islander fan saying this. But this was one of my best bets for the first round was the New York Rangers. So while I get to say I was right, no, I wasn't. If Crosby does not leave that series, they looked lifeless. They looked lifeless. But now they're going to do that retrospect thing where we were in the conference finals. We were right there. We had a 2-0 lead. Game 3, we had a 2-0 lead in the second period. We let it slip away. We're right there. Or conversely, Crosby stays in that game and you're out of that series in 5 because you looked lifeless and nothing energized you. And only when he was gone, you guys scored 2 goals in the next 10 minutes, tied up the game, and the whole series changed. So, people are going to dismiss that. And I never do. Stuff like that. It was the same thing with the Islanders, the Rangers, you name it. So when we get lucky in certain regards, and that will actually, it's a natural transition into something I was going to say. If the biggest hope for the Islanders is something that has nothing to do with them, and it's the same thing that just got the Rangers to the Eastern Conference Final, the same thing that got the Islanders there the year before. The Southern Road leads to Rome. Yeah, and there are a lot less obstacles in your way. Whatever team wants to come out of that nightmare has to go through, and you can say whatever they want about losing. I watched that series with you guys. You know for a fact Toronto did not look like that's just Toronto going away. Mm-mm. Then you have Florida, who got that series win under their belt. They'll be looking to build on that. And then you have Tampa, who definitely needs a year off. But those teams, all because of the structure, the same way back when Washington and Pittsburgh were just winning every single cup, yet they were forced to play each other in the second round. They're just all shoved up there. So what do we got to do? We got to play some scam Pittsburgh team who's lost their six straight opening round series, and then play who? Maybe Carolina. Now I do want to say, when they added Burns and Pacioretty, I thought those were literally the 2 perfect pieces, and I'm ready to elevate them to next level because, he's not like D'Angelo. He's a different kind of shooter on the power play. D'Angelo's a dancer looking for the perfect play. You talk about adding Burns, who definitely has juice in the tank still, and then Pacioretty, a lefty who could have used a lefty on the power play. And that I thought was going to elevate them.
For nothing.
Yeah, for nothing. We can get into we can get into that. Yeah, we can get into that. But then theoretically, he's injury prone and he already tore his Achilles and he's out half the year. So, I think their success was contingent on keeping that high seed. And now they have the horses to get them through a couple of rounds. But now, if they don't have him half the year because they let a couple guys go there, Niederreiter, they lost maybe 2 more players. They obviously let D'Angelo go to Philadelphia. So if they're all of a sudden on the road, it's not as easy to take one of those series. So anyway, the Islanders have to get through some jumble of the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Washington. You thought we were old. What are those 2 last teams I just said? They're ancient. They're bones. The mummy returns. They're done. They're finished.
Yeah, for me, the difference is their older players are elite players, where our older players are ham and eggers, which I just think makes a big difference. I don't know. For me, I've said to TJ, I said to him at the end of the playoffs, for me, Toronto is a dark horse to win the cup.
They're not a dark horse. They're the second favorite to win the cup, I think.
No, but here's the thing.
They still haven't even won a playoff series.
But TJ, we got to be smarter than that. We can't just say because they haven't.
I don't like their goaltending. That, for me, that's still the Achilles heel. But I tell you what, they grew up last year. I think that, here's the thing, Tampa beat them because Tampa has done it for the last number of years. That's the only reason Tampa won that series. But to me, Toronto, and I mentioned all last year, all right, maybe Toronto's record isn't as good, but the team has changed. They've morphed into a team that can play playoff hockey. And I thought you saw that last year. I just worry about the goaltending.
They're motivated.
That Atlantic division is so unbelievably stout, and you look at our division, you go, "Oof, it's nowhere even close." I mean, talk about even the teams that are going to be, Phoenixes from the fire. You look at the Buffalo Sabres; they showed signs of life. at the tail end of once they get rid of Jack Eichel, you see that the winning percentage is up once they get rid of the cancer there on the team.
All right.
Here's the thing. I'm going early on the record that guy might be a cancerous player to the team. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Hey, TJ, they always say it's best to catch cancer early. So that's if you're going to try to get it, you might as well get it that way.
What I'm saying is, I don't think he was a cancer, but I think the situation hung over the franchise until they resolved that. I think that was the issue, because honestly, the Sabres mismanaged his injury without a doubt.
Yes,
they mismanaged his injury, and that would sour. I think that would sour any player against an organization.
It did it with Trent Williams with the cancer that he had from never would play again for the Washington Redskins at the time period, and was like, "Gotta be traded. I'm not playing for you." And like anytime it's what put Vladimir Tarasenko wanting.
Trent, he's the number one ranked lineman, though, right? I think he did the. Oh yeah, he got himself off a cancerous team, though. Like you're saying the opposite's true. You're saying the player this time is
no, he actually had cancer. He actually had cancer, and they misdiagnosed it numerous times,
2 or 3 times. And
yes. I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to say. I thought you were trying to compare the situation of like a cancerous situation within the team.
Well, here's the thing. He said he was never going to play there again, and he never did. Yep. And they wound up trading him for
San Fran. I remember
that was a good deal for Frisco. Let's be honest.
So with that, you just quickly mentioned Tarasenko.
I was about to say St. Louis, they had the issue with the team doctors consistently doing, they didn't locate the actual issue that needed to be repaired. They weren't getting it done. He goes to independent doctor. They fixed the situation. He's a guy who apparently wants out of St. Louis. Anytime team doctors, I feel like, misdiagnose or screw up on a player like that, and they're so adamant on, no, we know it's this, you're fine. I feel like that usually sours the relationship between an organization and a player.
It's John Voight from Varsity Blues, when he was just like, people had brutal concussions. Like, walk it off, son. So they just
got his bell wrong. Just got his bell wrong.
Like Brett Favre, thousands of concussions. I mean,
I think he had a concussion when he actually said that, though.
That's why he
going back to Tarasenko and then Kadri, just such a main difference. It's like also another thing about these Carney fans. I'd love to see how they run their fantasy football rosters, because they're all absolute losers. And I'd love to see, because they're buying and selling. Remember, they're complaining the shoulder for Tarasenko. Yeah, that's why you get him at a discount, asshole. And you see that in order for this man to make money again, he has to remedy that situation. And in the next 2 years, he has to produce, or no more big contract. And then conversely, there is no worse dilemma than a guy who just won the Stanley Cup, 32, signing his last contract. Yep. I mean, do you have to watch Hocus Pocus to know what an awful witch's brew looks like? It's the worst brew you can ever have. Now, I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen, but when you're putting percentages on this, 32, just won the Cup, bad reputation in the past, multiple suspensions,
career season. That's the most points he's ever had by he's first time he's ever been a point a game guy, playing on a team that's a high octane, high offensive powered team. And even when he was in Toronto, it was another team. And I think that not enough people are talking about it.
So I'll give Phil credit. I'll give Phil, because I brought that up to Phil, and and I still agree with what you're about to say, because when you're surrounded by all that, and you're getting easier defensive assignments. But he said he played a majority of the time with Komarov. And hey, you know what, Phil? Eat shit. We saw how Barzal produced in the playoffs with Komarov. So
Komarov's
it's like
first line left winger. So
he is first line left winger. He's in first line, and he's in Croatia right now, playing left wing in Zagreb.
But I'm going to agree with TJ. I mean, you scored 87 points last year. Your previous career high was 62. I mean, you scored.
That's repeatable. That sounds like it's something that's going to
almost 35% or 30% more points than you've ever had in a season in your career. At 31, he'll be 32, and we're going to be paying him till he's 39.
October. 32, right. Like when the season starts.
Right. So he'll be 32, but he has 31-year age season. And I'm like, okay, to me, I wouldn't give him any more than 3 years and no more than $6 million.
But they wouldn't. I mean, he's not going to
Well,
do
I know
that.
they're not going to, but you know what? How many teams out there who are, I mean, we're really not a contender, but how many contenders are out there who are just going to say, okay, let's give him $7 million a year? I just don't think anyone has salary cap money.
By the way, Grumpy, I stopped myself from saying something. So
That's all right.
see,
That's okay. You cut off TJ before I just let it slide.
Look at him. Anyway,
it was a half cutoff because I needed to keep it in that what he was talking about because he was about to start something else. These are calculated cutoffs now. You know, I'm not just cutting off everyone.
They're
on the
yields,
highway.
Grumpy. It's not like he's making a right on red. These are yields.
Okay. I'm going to tell you. You want to know why Andy hasn't cut anyone off today? Because we're just letting him go.
That's the best way to do it, Grumpy.
I see he's got a ventilator on the side. He's eventually going to. I see how he's pursed his lip. He's running out of oxygen over down there in the dungeon. Go ahead. So what? Go ahead.
When it comes to Kadri, also going back to gambling, what are the odds a man in his early to then mid to then late 40s is going to be more healthy or equally as healthy or less healthy? Like, but then listen, the justifiers, they come out like, no, there's advancements in medicine. If he destroys his knee, we could send him to Germany. They always have an answer, like the shitty kid who just won't ever admit that he's wrong. They always have an answer. Here's the truth. You know he's not going to produce like he did. You know he's going to be more injury prone. You know the contract's going to look bad at the end. I'm not saying it because I hate the guy. The same thing about Bailey. I love to get dinner with them. We'll talk about things. I guarantee you I can make all of them laugh. I'm talking about what will make the Islanders the best in the long run and what will be detrimental to them. It's as simple as that. There's no biases here. It's just, for what it's worth, I was not on board signing Gaudreau, who's you'll get 1 year of 20s and you're going to get a couple great years of production. But going back to those Leafs quickly, John Tavares was starting to skate in quicksand last year. And throughout that year, everyone was going nuts about how he's clogging up 10 million. And I still think he's got 2 or 3 years left. And I'll even say they're winning on that deal. I thought he already would see a bigger drop-off than he has. But you watch him play, he can't. When you look at the guys who are taking over the game for the Leafs, it's never him. Like he's past that point now. And they're in that cup window. And, you know.
To me, he's one of those players, and I feel Gaudreau is also. I was all for signing Gaudreau. There are certain guys who just have a superior talent level where they age. And I'm not going to say Tavares is going to age gracefully, but his skill set and his ability to make those around him better, his reading of the game is better than most all the players in the NHL. Yeah. And Johnny Gaudreau's game is going to age well just because how he plays stylistically. Now, Nazem Kadri is not one of those type players.
Grumpy. I think you forget we do have Grumpy.
We can rebuild him.
We rebuild him. We've got the technology. What is that? The $6 million man? You like that little throwback?
That was a $6 million man.
We've got the technology. We can rebuild him with the ability of modern medicine, as the brilliant individuals on Twitter.
TJ, do you know what did Steve Austin lose that they had to rebuild bionically?
Bionic leg.
One leg?
Everything.
Then he would everything he would have done would have been like in a circle. No, he had lost both of his legs, one of his arms, because he could throw a football like over a mountain, and one of his eyes,
like Uncle Rico. But
well, guess what? Guess who didn't get those legs? Lieutenant Dan, and he ended up just fine.
Actually, I thought it was Lieutenant Anders Lee.
Oh, we'll get to that. But Grumpy, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. I just thought that before we got off the injury and the ability to rebuild, Grump, we've got the technology.
I didn't say he was going to be injured. I just said his game is not going to age gracefully.
Oh,
like Crosby. All right, look at Crosby, right? Look at Ovechkin. Those guys, their game has aged better, even at an advanced age.
They're generational talents.
So I actually agree with you, Grumpy. I do think Gaudreau, he's about how he uses his edges, and he's very shifty, doesn't take a lot of big hits, and his vision. I actually agree with you on that one. Tavares, for what it's worth, the one thing I will say in a positive end, they got him for the true prime. Like they didn't. He wouldn't be there till 39. He's out at 34. Right. So if we gave a monster deal to someone from 27 to 34, what are you really eating? Maybe one bad year. That's fine. That's fine. But when you talk about this, yes, yeah, and they may have to eat it because it's not like he's a burner. So once he doesn't have time and space, like he's not going to be as effective. But still, he's obviously very, very good.
Still the best center we've had in I don't know how many years. John Tavares, we talk about it all the time, had the ability of making every player around him better, and we want Matt Barzal to do that, but he just doesn't. And John Tavares, the way he left,
he has a higher ceiling. I would tell you if he didn't. He has a high Matt Barzal with his speed, and speed is what gives you the ability to be like. Take away Connor McDavid flying by people, he doesn't. Like he just has all of it. But I'm just saying, like you take away that one thing, speed, and he's coming down to all the other stars level. Speed is the true separator that allows you to like enter that next stratosphere. So if Barzal is like a faster Gaudreau. He really is. When you look at and once again, just like Kadri, take away Gaudreau's last year. You see he's got like a 19 goal year, a 22 goal year. He's a pass first guy, which is why I thought playing them together would have been really weird, even though I guess technically it could work. But
he did have 40 goals last year, though.
I said don't do the Kadri thing.
But he's been a goal scorer his career, though.
No, I remember I was looking at this because I was saying like, look, I'm fine with it. But when you talk about, because it all depends what you're asking for. If you tell me Tarasenko is going to play with Barzal, it makes total sense. You have one guy, bigger body, sniper, and Barzal's always looking, always in the back of his head. Where is he on the ice? It's a different dynamic if you have Gaudreau. It's just a constant, then, it's constant movement, looking for the perfect plays. I was just defending that point when they said like, oh, it's the same thing. I was like, it's a little different. When you bring in Gaudreau, you're essentially bringing in a second guy who would be at his best with a sniping winger.
But who could really benefit? Who could really benefit from a Gaudreau Barzal line was Wahlstrom.
Yeah,
that's your sniper. There's your sniper.
That's a hell of a push, though. Putting him with two true stars, like that's a hell of a.
How far back would Oliver Wahlstrom be in the transition game as you got Barzal and Gaudreau just speeding down the ice? I guess maybe as he's trailing, they're going to open up so much space as they did that initial penetration through the defense.
So going on about Islander fans and something that no one's a fan of, but there's a part of me with how leaky everything is, not just hockey transactions, the government, you name it. Everything just leaks out. There's a weird part of me that is somewhat impressed that this guy can somehow have no one has the actual ability to confirm what he does. Like, it's wild that he can pull that off, and trust me, it's infuriating for everybody, but it's the new thing about being an Islander fan. That's great. They win and I'm happy. They lose, those gargoyles deserve every loss that comes to them. It's a double win for me now. Either the Isles win or those fans on Twitter lose.
For me, I bet he has not put ink to paper on that contract.
I hope so.
Because now I just think, maybe he's waiting for, if he really wanted to sign with the Islanders, he would have already signed. And they're not going to be able to hide that. He's not going to say, well, hey, we're not going to do that. This is a relatively new thing for Lou Lamoriello. It's just the last 2 years because he's totally failed as a GM because he couldn't handle the salary cap. Before that, when they signed Anders Lee back, that was first day signing. Brock Nelson, Jordan Eberle. He announced those immediately.
Are you talking about the big league contract, or?
Yeah.
Well, that was only because that was after Panarin pulled that move. He was the emergency.
Well, but they didn't have to make the announcement until September. It's a new thing for him. It's the last 2 years. Last year and this year is the first years that he waited till the week before training camp before signing these guys. It's just,
what do you really think it is? Why?
I think
he's just spiteful of the way the world is now.
I don't think he knows what he's. I think the game has passed him by. I think the finances of the game is too much for him to grapple with. I don't think he has the cachet with other GMs like he previously had. He can't bend them over a barrel and take them for whatever they're worth. Now he has to give. Now he's shown in recent years getting rid of Taves for 2 second-round picks, keeping a Nicoletti.
Giving up a first and second for Jean-Gabriel Pageau, giving up a first and fourth for Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, just overpaying and getting
overpaying, and then being just happy to give away draft picks to get people off of your roster where there are other ways to do it. And I just think that he's lost that ability. I hope this is his last year as GM. That's all I'm saying.
So actually what you're saying is the defense I would give for, it's hard to figure where you fall, like where the correct way to fall is on the Trotz situation. But what you're saying is like the game kind of passed him by. And being that you guys are NFL guys, nobody knows better than you. Who was early to the party? The guys who hired McVay. They took a ton of shit at the time, hiring a 30-year-old kid to go out there. Shanahan, another offensive, and now everyone's looking for the next young offensive-minded guy. So if those rumors are true, and I told you the last time, the reason I don't engage in all this Islander rumor shit is because how can I bash on people from watching the Real Housewives of New Jersey and then sit here and hit refresh, hoping, oh my God, did you see we put it in? It's no different. It's the male version, and if you disagree, you're lying to yourself. It's unconfirmed drama, all speculation, and it's just nothing. It's a bunch of nothing.
That's true. But here's the thing. We do 2 shows a week, so
not you. I'm saying you, not you. No,
but I 100% agree.
That's full justification.
You mentioned Shanahan and McVay.
Oh, hold on. But what I was saying though is the Islanders. If we were to believe those, the Real Housewives of Long Island, it was rumored that on the players' exit interviews, they stated their displeasure with certain things about Trotz that weren't too dissimilar from the complaints that fans had about, how he treats the younger guy. I mean, you guys mention this all the time, although I still fully believe in those 1-goal playoff games, Dodson needed to be benched in the 3rd period. However, they obviously were not a fan of that. And if Lou bit the bullet for them and got rid of Trotz a year early to be ahead of the curve, and Lambert does well, then that's essentially what you're saying about like Lamorello. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I've been saying for the last 2 years, they should have already brought in an assistant GM from a Tampa, from a Florida, from a Colorado, from a Toronto, some teams that are versed in the 21st century NHL as it currently exists. And bye-bye, TJ, going to the bathroom. Thanks for letting us know. And that's what I would have done, and have him trade under Lamorello, then kick him upstairs. For me, worst case scenario is him staying there another year, then saying, okay, let's give the GM ship to Fredo, his kid down in Bridgeport. I'm petrified of that.
So also when it comes to that, and I know your defense of like, oh my God, like this is what you're trained to think that way. Remove the Islanders. Just talk about something that you do. I forgot what you did before you were a fabulous podcast host, but imagine somebody had very productive years, even if you kind of disagreed with some of the way they went about how they ran their department or something, but it produced better than almost all of its predecessors. It would look very bad to the rest of the company, but if you fired that guy at the first sign of it, just would. It would.
I look at it this way. I thought last year, I felt that a lot of the players tuned Trotz out, particularly down the stretch. And his style of hockey is really, really tough to play. Grinding out every single game it's physically tough. It's mentally tough. I thought when Lamorello and Trotz came in, I thought they both served their purpose. They took the Islanders from a laughing stock to a team that was respected once again. That doesn't mean you should be there forever. Barry Trotz stayed longer as a head coach than I think anyone else that Lamorello's ever had. 4 years. That's like an anachronism for him. And I think that Barry Trotz served his purpose at the time. He got the most out of that team. For me, the whole team, the forward group needs to be totally transitioned out, except for a couple of guys.
We've seen that, and I just because I feel like I'm going to lose the names. We've seen that with Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors before Steve Kerr got there. We saw that with guys like Tom Thibodeau. We saw that with Harbaugh of the Niners. It was about like, there are
shelf life. They all have a shelf life.
Why did I forget the word of like the something of the franchise, like the
they were like a
forgetting words. But it's like they changed the culture. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the word I had to remember. Culture, I couldn't remember. But they're able to change the culture.
Change was the word that was giving you a problem.
and then somebody comes to push them. It's tough to know. So this one you both are going to disagree with. The main reason I don't want Kadri, because this one's going to be to prove to everyone, to you two, to the team that went on 2 runs. All the hints are there that there is a cohesive unit motivated to work together to get back there, and they really want to. When you had guys like Zach Parise who took a mercenary deal to come, the fact that he would take another mercenary deal and choose the Islanders, and whatever you think about Clutter, but everyone's pens are indicating they want to stay. And I said this, I think it's very silly to not give the group one chance, because I truly believe the main factor is that lack of rest. They looked like a beat up team, and me, just for my personal sanity, I'll be happy to say, you guys are right about that one. I'd like to see this team with a full off season. And now that they, at least if this Romanov kid could have just hold up, he's a minute eater. And then Sorokin is hitting up, like, we should have the highest level of goaltending we've had in this whole stretch, and we're going to need it because we're not going to play that rigorous defense. I want to give these guys a shot to prove everybody wrong, because I will guarantee you the numbers, you'll see upticks from all those guys who are healthier. You'll see a Pageau uptick. You'll see a Beauvillier bad luck uptick. You'll see a Barzal uptick from his points last year, because there's also the freedom in the ability to make mistakes. You're not going to see oh my God, I missed a clearance. You guys don't factor that in too, like where there can be this freedom, allotted to these players who are being clamped down by 10 minutes per night. And maybe they'll have a little freedom to move out there, and there can be some offensive strides that Sorokin can maybe patch up early in the season until they form that new identity. But I want to give these guys, they're not that old. They're not ancient. They're not the Penguins or what. I want to give them one shot, man, to make it right.
We've talked about that being the best case scenario, is the guys who felt a little shackled under Barry Trotz's system with a new coach, a new voice in the room. Well, not a new voice in the room, but, a new coach, maybe a little bit more freedom to be more adventurous in certain situations and to be more instinctive instead of such a rigid structure. Maybe it's going to allow them to perform a little better and allow them to kind of take off. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Now, here are items that I could see that could very possibly be the case. Grumpy has dismissed it. Others that we've had on the show have dismissed it. This is a first-time head coach in Lane Lambert. I think that, Barry Trotz had his faults. Lane Lambert's going to have his faults. I think that we go from a guy who, and again, I think that we had to move on from Barry Trotz. I'm just not sure. I think it's kind of foolhardy to say I'm expecting Lane Lambert to come in and be better coach than Barry Trotz. Maybe he'll be a little bit more free, but I just wonder how that dynamic is going to change. And you mentioned a little bit about, hey, we played there. We had that condensed schedule. We made it to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals in a shortened off season. I think, that very well could be true. I also think it, maybe just a little bit of it plays into the possibility of the team's just older. Guys like
I know you guys think that. But it's not as bad as you guys are making it sound. Like 29s and 30s and are you guys part of the group that wants to get rid of Beauvillier, who's one of our most
Nope.
Yeah, our forecheckers who, when you look at the end of our run and we looked like the Rangers in Game 7 versus Tampa, we couldn't move. One of the few guys who still had juice was Beauvillier. Like, to get rid of him, it's just nuts. Like,
no, see, I don't want to get rid of Anthony Beauvillier. The guys I want to cull from the roster, first of all, why are you signing Cal Clutterbuck back? He's oft injured, 34 years old. You give him a 2-year extension. Why? Why did you?
Because it's free. It's essentially free.
Okay, but you know what? I'd much rather give the spot to a younger player and let him grow into the role as a guy who's going to have
the fourth line.
But here's the thing: the third line is the same way. I mean, it's the same pattern. You got Parise, right? He's going to be 38 next year. Okay, to me,
come on, you watched him last year. You watched him last year and going to say he was not a good player.
To me, if you want Parise back, he should be playing on the fourth line. Okay, you don't need Matt Martin. Why was it necessary to sign Matt Martin? And here's the thing: these are all things that we spoke about in real time as they occurred, not 3 years down the line. Immediately, we talked about it. You signed Matt Martin back to a 4-year deal, and then for some reason, you felt it necessary to sign Ross Johnston to an identical 4-year deal.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Then Casey Cizikas, always injured. At his 30-year-old contract, you felt it necessary to give him a 6-year deal to a bottom line center. I'm sorry. You don't pay bottom line. You don't give bottom line players 6-year freaking deals. I've never seen a guy who's a bottom line player get 10 years and 2 freaking contracts. Stop. He's a fourth liner for a reason. He's only scored over 10 goals once in his whole freaking career, but we feel it's essential to give that guy a contract. I mean, and then you got Brock Nelson. You think Brock Nelson's going to shoot it at 20% or 22% clip next year? He won't. Just to let you know, he won't.
He's good.
Okay, and he has been good. But he's not going to shoot 22% like he did last year. He usually shoots an 11% clip. He doubled that last year. You got Albert Andersley, that freaking totem pole, who the only time he played well was 2 weeks before the trade deadline and 1 week after. Then he went back into the coma that he was in for the last year and a half.
Well, you guys should know better than anyone. When does somebody get back to normal after a torn ACL? The second season. So we're gonna. Oh, by the way, there was a panic deal. I hate all panic deals. By the way, the Kadri deal would be a panic deal because they didn't get it there, and that was a tough one because if I feel for him in that situation, because if you were in his shoes and Panarin pulled that nonsense on you and you're looking around and now you let your captain go too, you're just some guy at that point. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're letting everyone go. So that's a tough situation to be in. Nelson's pretty nasty, man. You can say what you want. This guy, he can snipe. You could seen it for years. Maybe it's not as high as last year, but he's good, man. He's good. He absolutely is very good.
I love Nelson.
He's just real good. And Lee, you saw Lee last season score. He's one of those guys, many forwards. It's actually all forwards, score in bunches. And I'll guarantee you, although he's not my kind of player, I said this to you guys at the time, that's an under market value. You can guarantee yourself that Kyle Palmieri is going to score more goals this year. It's just guaranteed. Oh. It's impossible not to.
Oh, no.
I know.
See, another guy. Why? Just here, Andy, here's my philosophy.
That stock can't drop any lower. Anyway, continue, Grump.
Here's my philosophy. You got a guy who's 30 years old. Let someone else sign him to a long-term deal. I'm not signing guys in their 30s to long-term deals.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I'm going to say, when I say never, I'm talking about Hammond Eggers, which is the vast majority. I'm talking about the Kyle Palmieri.
You mean supplementary players?
Yes, because I'm 100% agree.
I like that. Supplementary is that's a way to say it in an astute way. Hammond Eggers, Grumpy. I feel like
I'm not astute. I just call them Hammond Eggers because you know what? You get them at any bar, you could get them in any diner, any place USA. Ham and eggs, they all taste the same. They're just replacement food.
Denny's ham and eggs taste. I've actually never eaten that at Denny's.
So, oh my God, I'll never forget this. Here you go. You want some? You're still here. You want some pie? Just quick. Just one time, there was this cute girl when I lived in Los Angeles. I asked her to hang out. She said, "Yeah, I lived by Manhattan Beach, one of the nicest piers, even though I lived in a small place." And I was like, "You want to come by the pier?" She goes, "Can we just go to Denny's instead?" I was like, "What? Who would?" Now, granted, I didn't mind, but that takes some balls. You hang out with a guy for the first time. You're asking me to go to Denny's? It sent my mind down a path, and now I'm not judging that. It's just, if you're going to hang out with someone for the first time, like, all right, what if I took a girl on a first date? Yeah, let's go to Applebee's. I should be judged.
Let's go to Chili's. Yeah, as best.
Maybe she's just playing with your mind. See how you reacted.
Look, when you're hot, you can get away with murder. I went to Denny's and whatever. What do you got?
Let's order two. What do they get? They get like an all-American breakfast.
But the issue, the greater issue, the greater problem that I have with Lou Lamoriello in particular is, I feel we overvalue the talent on our team, particularly the older talent. We don't think we can survive without these guys who are in their 30s. We've never won anything. We've never won anything with this group. Nothing. Never won a division title. Never won a conference title. Never won a Stanley Cup. We've never won anything. So you can say, well, this guy's got this pedigree. No, because they've never won anything. People forget how bad they were under Doug Weight. These are the same players, just older and not as good anymore. That's my issue.
I think once again, you're making them out to be worse than they are. And obviously, man, I'm happy to shit on players. I really am. Paul Mary's not my kind of player. He's not my kind of player. But regardless, he got signed to under market value. Like many of the people you're complaining about, the reason I can live with them, because if they didn't throw the checkbook at them, they throw it at Kadri. Like, that's your same level of disgust. And now that's forbidden you from doing other business. All those moves you just mentioned, none of them are going to prevent the Isles from doing business. They're really not. 2 million, 3, 4. You're talking about 9. It's over.
But it all adds up. See, everything adds up. Palmieri. You know what? I would much rather given a younger guy a shot as opposed to signing him to that deal, which he's never going to earn. The same thing with Lee. At that time, the
deal's over though before you know it.
7-year deal. We've suffered through that.
Not him.
That was a 7-year deal. Montreal. Well, if Montreal, here's the thing. This is what you're worth in the real world. You don't go a penny above that. I don't care if somebody else offers you more. Bye-bye. See you later. Guess what? We're transitioning away from you. That guy has a lot of warts on his game. The one thing he does well is stand right in front of the net, clog it up, and deflect pucks. That's Anders Lee's whole game. No defense whatsoever until just before the deadline because he wants to keep the whole group together. So let's try for a couple of weeks. I just found it was so obvious to me how they played like dogs the whole year. 2 weeks before the deadline, when the Islanders need to make a decision, do we sell? Do we stand? Do we add? They all start picking their play up. And then all of a sudden, a week after the deadline, back to being dogs again. I'm sorry. That's not for me. That it lowered my opinion of a lot of guys on the team.
So I've said this many times. I said it when these people on OddsShopper didn't know who I was, and I just was some guy that I had to earn their trust. I said there are two different sports: regular season hockey and playoff hockey. And I don't mean it in like some cliche way, like there's a season hockey and play. No, it actually looks like two different brands of sports. And I know, TJ, we've always mentioned the Mayfield effect, where, I had people arguing me. It's starting to piss me off because I don't bring up every little thing. There are a few major things. I'm like, you don't want to do this. Taves was 1, Bailey was 2, and then you can put Kadri as 3. But the disrespect given to Mayfield, I understand he's going to have many regular season games that look bad, but it's a different set of rules in the playoffs. Yep. And I'm going to bring that to the Isles that you were probably a little more disgraced by during the regular season. Their game translates, whether you like it or not, better to playoff hockey. Someone like Anders Lee, we have so few big bodies. We've seen multiple playoff years. He'll get his ass right in front of there. And sometimes he'll bang home rebounds. Sometimes he'll get them to take penalties. And conversely, you got guys like Mayfield. He literally eliminated Kucherov from a game and then scored the game-tying goal. These guys, their game translates, and that scumbag fourth line can go 20 games looking like useless wastes of time. But when you have those wild, raucous environments, we see it's not a coincidence that they never become the best line during the season, even in their heyday. But when the playoffs come, that style of hockey, all of a sudden they're effective every game. Matt Martin had like 5 goals in one playoff series because it's a different game. It's why I'm willing to some of the guys that you hate, and that excludes Palmieri. I've never seen this playoff Palmieri. But like the fourth line, Andersley, Mayfield especially, they're built for playoffs. And that's why I don't get disgusted at them.
See, for me, we've never beaten anybody outside our own division in the playoffs. Not
Boston, that was a tough one. That was a tough series, man.
Well, Boston was in our division that year.
But they're usually not.
But they were in our division that year.
Right,
so we played them. We played them 9 times during the season. So they were in our division that year.
He's right.
We've never beaten anybody outside of our division. Those are just facts.
I know. It's just, well, how about this? And it does count as the playoffs. You can look it up because the statistics count. Florida.
Oh, that's right. That's the year we wouldn't even have made the playoffs if not for COVID. Thank God for COVID.
That was by far the best team, by the way. Because remember, they didn't have Pelech, who obviously is a massive defenseman, and then that gap allowed him to heal and come back. But when they had, I say this all the time, when they had those 3 pairings of Pulock, Pelech, then they would put Mayfield, Taves, and then all of a sudden, the top pairing defensemen from the previous year, Boychuk and Leddy, were the 3rd pairing. Then Leddy then Boychuk got injured, and they put it. Just everything fit perfectly. That's why every game the opponents were being held to under 30 shots until we played the Lightning, who were one of the best teams of all time. But we breezed through those series. Even the 7-game, it took 3 overtime losses, which is ridiculous in coin flip situations. Yeah. But they still, and they dominated Game 7. They held them to under 20 shots. I've not seen that Islander team since. And yes, we went further the next year. It's why I keep yelling. Stop looking at the results and start looking at the process of what's getting them there. When you see other teams getting nothing, which is what Washington got, which is what Philadelphia got, and then the following year, you see Varlamov having to stand on his head against Boston, and we're switching goalies because they're getting shelled. How are you not seeing this? Why? Because you're gargoyles. You're the orcs who live in the underdwellings of Twitter, and you have generic defaults because you never use your picture. God forbid what we know what you look like. I don't want to know what you look like. But you never look at the process. You only look at the results. And you're looking at Kadri's stats as if that's somehow going to translate to a team he's never played with. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, on this show, we don't want Kadri. Kadri is a total. It's for me, it's very, very similar to signing Andrew Ladd, who was a total reactionary signing to losing Okposo and Nielsen. So
what do you mean? Nobody wanted Kadri. Nobody wanted him in
now everybody
2020, 2019, 2018, but now he's a star, guys. Well, he's a star. Why? Because he's the last one available.
Nobody. I don't even think any Islander fans.
And the last girl at the bar is a star too, no matter what she looks like.
Particularly 2:00 in the morning. But here's the thing. But nobody, no Islander fans. And when you go into this free agency season, no one's going, "Hey, we want Kadri." It's just now because we've done nothing that the fans are saying, "Let's get Kadri."
The justifiers.
Kadri doesn't solve our issues. He just doesn't. Now, if you would have somehow brought in a Kadri and a Gaudreau to go with a Romanov, okay. That's an offseason where all I care about is winning a Stanley Cup. That's all I care about. I don't care about the moral victories of making the playoffs. Remember, we were 16 points out of a playoff spot last year. 16 points out. The only year that we haven't done anything or even went to the playoffs were 2 non-COVID years.
All right, so but put it in perspective, 100 points made the playoffs last year. Islanders were over 500. Once again, I don't use all the excuses that everyone uses.
Not much.
I just use one. They look like shit last year.
I don't want to interrupt, but can we talk about that? I freaking hate when the people say they're over 500, but like they disclude overtime losses. Like, well, we're not including that in the equation. That's still a loss.
Well, what they can say are the amount of shootouts they lost are not repeatable. They lost a legendary amount of shootouts. So their counter would be, yeah, you're right. We should be like 8 games over 500. That's what they would say. However, it doesn't matter. I just saw the continued garbage defense, and I saw everybody blowing Noah Dobson all year long because it's the same thing. They don't know what they're watching. They only know how to look at stat sheets. Yes, he had the points the same way Bailey had the playoff assists. But we still had Trotz. We were still trying to do it the Trotz way. This year, I'll be more forgiving of his mistakes because theoretically we should be playing a freer system. But when we were in that old system where we're trying to win 2-1, every little mistake is paramount. So I'm going to be unforgiving.
Yeah, but
you know who is very forgiving? Just the Twitter fans. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if he's a -4? He got 2 points. Did you see the 2 points, Grumpy? They were 2 points.
But he was. Assholes. I mean, here's the thing. He was playing by himself out there.
Don't you do that, man.
He was having the cover. It was like instead of having a free and a strong safety, he was playing the one safety over top when they're freaking blitzing, when they're spreading down the field on fly routes, and he's expected to cover every damn route. Chara was just a freaking pile of trash last year. Love him as a guy. He was a legend in the game, but he was just freaking atrocious. And I thought the addition of Romanov is going to help enough in transition, I think, to spur a little bit of extra offense because he was so miserable last year.
Yeah,
that's
my hope.
Mistakes, though. I'm not ignoring that. He did.
Yeah, here's my hope. Here's my hope. Romanov transforms Dobson because he's able to move the puck to him, and Dobson could be more free to be the offensive player that he really is because of the way he covers on the back end. That's where I think you can see improvement on the offense is by Noah Dobson jumping into the play. He's the only defenseman we have of the veterans who really has that ability to actually jump into play and create offense from the back end. No one else does.
If Pulock is healthy, I mean, this is what he was there for,
but
right?
That's never been his game. He's never been a guy who rushes the puck up the ice. That's not what he's ever been.
You know what? Let's skip that because let's not touch on that thing that I want to leave in the past because it's always there. It's always going to be there.
Yeah,
you can't see. I know you can't see. You won't find one tweet about me talking about Tavares. He left. I go, I wouldn't want to stay at this place either. We got 5 buildings. I'm going home. I've never said one bad thing about Tavares leaving the Islanders.
Me neither.
I don't want to talk about the other thing. All right. It's just disgraceful.
Do you want to talk about the other thing, Andy?
Is it about Taves?
Hey, he won the Stanley Cup at least.
Oh,
at least. You know?
But see, think about it, right? How short-sighted was that, right? Trotz wanted Leddy.
Nick Leddy, yeah.
He wanted Leddy. And I'm like, you don't trade away a 25-year-old defenseman to keep a guy who's 30. You just don't do it.
Here's the problem. This is housewife stuff. We don't know this. We don't know. Like, we just have to speculate.
You want to hear some housewives? You want to hear some housewives rumors? The day after, or the week after he was fired, I always wondered. You know how sometimes with lovers they get in this one item that just kind of starts to split and drift the love apart. I firmly believe Lou Lamoriello did not want to get rid of Devon Toews. I thought he wanted Devon Toews instead of Nick Leddy, but was so firm and adamant, at least out in the public. He said Nick Leddy was the second best player by a large margin.
Country mile.
I was about to say, Varlamov was really great. He was fantastic. He was the best player by country mile. The second best was Nick Leddy. Not even a question. And that offseason, you had a choice because you needed to go ahead and shed cap. Where you're getting rid of Devon Toews or you're getting rid of Nick Leddy in order to make that work. Well, it was pretty obvious as to what Barry wanted. Maybe what Lou wanted was something else, and I feel like that was a little bit of a rift that just continued to split that love apart.
But wouldn't you say that if that was the case, then any GM who traded that guy, then you can't trade the other guy because then it's admitting you made 2 mistakes. That's why I have a little trouble with that one because they got rid of Leddy anyway.
When you're Lou Lamoriello, when you're Lou Lamoriello, you don't make any mistakes. Everything is the correct thing. In Lou we trust.
Like with Lou too.
But then he would have
kept away Nick Leddy in order to open up space. But if you look at the back and forth, the issues that Lou and Barry, the miscommunications or just the blatant FUs, like I like Golashev. He was told by Lou Lamoriello, hey, you're going to dress. I've moved to the roster. He was told he was going to dress the day of. And right before game time, they say, nope, you're not going to play. And what's the reason for not playing? Coach's decision. What's coach's decision? Well, we haven't seen him play at the NHL level, so we're not going to give him any chance. But he's been part of the Islanders organization. I think that communications and relationship was bad between them at the end. I think both of them are guys we need to move away from, just as we've mentioned earlier. Trotz, the system.
Just be careful what you wish for, man. Like, just don't
I'm
forget that
telling
you saw that clip. What was that recent clip where they said about Garth Snow? Like he just literally was like a kid. Someone asked him what to do when he like played a game of NHL and started drafting people. Like, be careful what you wish for. You know,
I think if we sign Nazem Kadri, and now there's a rumor, right? We may also go after winger, so that might be trying to bring in a guy like a JT Miller, is what I've heard. We are going to set ourselves up if we don't win a cup in the next 2 years. If we go all for broke and we add in 29-year-old JT Miller, we add 32-year-old Nazem Kadri to these big long-term deals, we are going to set ourselves up for a freaking 10-year rebuild. And you want to go one up, Grumpy? You know what we talked about last time?
No, I don't remember.
We talked about our favorite ownership.
Oh my God.
The new TV show that they star on, Property Brothers. Because guess what, ladies and
these
gentlemen?
rat bastards. This is what some girls tell me I look like. The fucking property
No,
brother. I've never watched the show.
These are not the Property Brothers. This is Malcolm Ledecky.
I can tell.
Oh,
Okay.
shit. Well, okay, fair enough. Well, I didn't know. I mean, like, look at those. God almighty, those chompers.
Wait, you mean to tell me you photoshopped those? I thought they were real, especially the cone head on the right.
Yeah, we did a great job with the blending in there of that.
No, it's not. Come on.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Andy. I was having a dinner with a young man who's going over to Iraq in the next couple of weeks on last Wednesday's podcast. So TJ and Tommy Baffy, I left them to their own devices for about an hour. When I finally got onto the show, the Islanders were selling the team. They were disbanding the NHL. Hockey was no longer going to exist. So I have to make sure I'm here on time every week. Otherwise, everything goes off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to also maintain credibility that the point of the show isn't only to say, like, sell doom and gloom, like
I could
because it's not
see them selling the team. I really could, because I mean, like, I could see, right, they talk about the value of the squad and what the organization has increased with UBS Arena. I could see if we go into a huge rebuild, I could see them looking to sell. They're guys who have done it before. They're property managers there by nature. I could see that. I'm not saying, hey, I'm telling you they're selling. I could tell you they're businessmen. They're guys who have had a lot of purchases and a lot of sales before regarding holdings and regarding land, regarding different properties. Could they do the same with the organization? Who knows? I don't know. They've tried to purchase a lot of different organizations in the past, been snubbed. I don't know.
My logic is you don't buy a sports team, particularly a hockey franchise, to make money. You just don't do it. So there we go. TJ, I think it's ad time, is it not?
Yes.
Let's get to the ad and then get to some comments.
What is that we got over there? Is that the Real Housewives? There it is.
That's what I'm sorry. I didn't know we were doing that for a couple minutes. That was a full Real Housewives.
That's why we brought you on.
Just digging into the future. I could see him selling giving us Miss Cleo Housewives. All right, we're selling.
The real question is, which Housewives character am I? I don't know the Housewives. I mean, like,
I don't even know which one. How many of those shows they have now, Andy? I know you watch them religiously.
I don't know. No, I harshly judge, but
this is I don't know which one this is. Is this? I think this is New York.
That's a deal breaker for me.
It's scary that you know that's.
Well, I know the one girl in the middle. She's been on the show for forever. You got to remember, the warden watches those shows. She watches New York and Jersey.
Oh, good gracious! Now I was just pulling
so
up.
I know what the Jersey girls look like for certain, and that I think that was New York.
But let me get into the ad here. Today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer, with tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports. You can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000. And if it doesn't win, you don't win. You'll still get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action from MLB, baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. A minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details and additional information below, Grump.
Oh,
He can read. He can read.
He's
I've been reading
memorized
that. I've been reading that one for the same about 3 months. So it's almost like it's rehearsed now. I could just go ahead and read it with ease.
Hey,
Go ahead, TJ.
That's a good start. And I am. If you need an additional backup, I am a verified DraftKings user, and I got some tickets in the Millie Maker for week 1, so you should get in there too.
Oh, there you go. See, Andy, he's a walking advertisement for DraftKings.
Well, Noah
Absolutely.
W, and I wanted to make sure I used that right after this here. I saw this comment. He said, Andy, I followed you through the NHL playoffs, and I owe you a big thank you. You're not Noah's not the only person to say. I saw on Twitter that other people were saying followed Andy, made a lot of money. Thank you so much, Andy. I saw that Andy did really well in the NHL playoffs.
It's why, like, it's just sickening when I have to try to. It's like, what else do people like? So if I just happen to know what's going to happen in all these series, but you know what? Maybe when I watch the Islanders, I just know nothing. I don't know my own eyes. The same type of philosophies and the same type of things I've seen. I've been watching I'm not one of these fake watchers. I'm not one of these Islanders are 4th in my bio. Hockey has been my number 1 sport. NFL's my number 2 sport. I don't pretend to know about other sports. I've played hockey. I know hockey. I'm a bunker hockey guy. So when you see me say these things, I'm not just saying miscellaneous shit. Okay? So, like, just the dumbest thing I could ever do is actually not listen, but even try to embrace something that like a random Islander fan would say to me. I think I get most pissed when once again, I blame Phil. So Phil will comment on one of these Islanders. I don't know who they are. They're random Twitter checkmark Islander guys. I've never heard of them, never seen them on TV. They're just random guys. And they say idiotic things. It's as very simple as that. And like, I don't want to be disrespectful. I just say the plain sentence, like with the give me the finished proper pronunciation again.
Atu.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mediocre goal he scored the other day. And they're trying to act like it's something. And if you see nothing other than a mediocre goal, I can't help you. Now, any hockey player can do that. Any hockey player can fucking sweep it in one motion off the boards and lift it. And if a goalie doesn't happen to be there, it's going to go in. I just don't know what to tell you. If you think that's an impressive goal, you just got to take your name out of the mix for serious takes.
I'm going to tell you something about Aatu Räty. I went to see a couple of playoffs games when they were down here in Charlotte, when Bridgeport was down here in Charlotte. And of all the players on that team, the only ones who really impressed me were Aatu Räty. And I'm not talking about scoring a goal. I'm talking about his play away from the puck, his skating ability. I'm just watching. I watched the game. I don't because, and then I'll get to the guys who disappointed me. And Kyle McLean.
Oh, by the way, that's not a play assessment. It's the blowing of this guy for something that's standard.
I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, is he going to have a shot to play on his team next year? No. He's at least 1, probably 2 years away before challenging for a roster spot. Why? Because we have so many guys on long-term contracts again. So until you start moving guys out, you can't move any other guys in. But for me, he was very, I thought for a guy who'd only been in the States for a month, I was impressed with his game. It was right at the end.
Great. I look forward to it. I'm not bashing the player. I think it was great how they got him. And yeah.
Now, you want to know the guy who disappointed me? Simon Holmstrom.
I knew you could get that.
Now he scored some goals. He had a couple of assists. He sucks. I'm sorry. There's nothing to his game that translates to the NHL. I was also disappointed. I was disappointed only because I was expecting more from Robin Salo. He was probably their best defenseman, but he didn't do anything that said, oh, okay, he stands out. He's really great defensively, or he's making plays back there, or he's headbanding or he's doing something. He was okay, but he didn't look like the player who we'd seen in the NHL earlier in the year. Go ahead, TJ. I know you want to say something. TJ.
I know you jumped in earlier. I wanted to bring up about Andy's point. Are you trying to tell me that just simply putting up points in a World Juniors isn't going to go ahead and correlate to success like that? I mean, Kiefer Bellows scored the most goals since Mike Mcdonald in the World Juniors back when he was playing, and you've seen the story success he's had in his career.
It's funny. I'm not even saying that. All I'm saying is if you think that highlight is impressive, you're an asshole. It's as simple as that. And by asshole, I mean the Long Island way. Like, you just don't know what you're talking about. I'm not calling you even you Twitter orcs. If you were right in front of me, I would, because I'm not a disgrace of a human, I would imagine you guys are doing what people do behind their car window. You act like it's a magic force field and you start giving people the fingers. But if you're in an elevator, you never act that way. I'm just saying, if you think that's an impressive goal, you just clearly have never played hockey. I mean, I don't know how taking a puck in one motion off the boards and roofing it is even remotely impressive. Do you know if you go watch NHL warm-ups, they can hit every single puck hits the post and down, post and down, post and down, post and down. It is not even remotely impressive. It only happened because the goalie literally did a Greg Goldberg from Mighty Ducks, toe-picked himself and started army crawling over and went for a Derek Jeter backhanded catch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Vasilevsky ain't going to be doing that. Anyway.
I'm going to start
going back. Hey, you're welcome to all the Isles fans who followed me throughout the course of the playoffs. There really was only one major mistake that I made, but along the way, I got every single game in the Carolina series correct. Every single one. Picked the wrong game 7, but still, like, it's not like you're just picking series winners. Like, I was giving them daily bets. I picked the home. My philosophy was, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Until we see otherwise, we're going with it. I went home on Carolina every single game, the first 2 series. They went freaking 7-0 for us before one loss. But that loss, it's a shitty one because it's a game 7, so it sticks out. But so many series, the Lightning made everyone so much money throughout the playoffs. It was you guys were there for that one big one, and it was great. It was great. They want me obviously to do it again, but regular season hockey, like I told you, it's just fake. It's fake. You don't see the real teams. So I'll say, if you want, wait for next playoffs if you're waiting for those. The whole thing,
the games are called differently by the officials.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're able to get away with more stuff. So.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Rich A saying, welcome to the Islanders Almost On Time podcast. Drew L saying, what does TJ and Southwest Airlines have in common? They're both always delayed or late. Doug R. TJ has no idea about Lombardi time. Grumpy old man. Please teach him on that one.
Do you know what Lombardi time was, TJ?
5 minutes early or you're late.
That's right. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
I'm familiar with it.
So for you showing up like a half an hour late, you could just say, I'm here early for tomorrow's meeting.
Nick D saying, TJ, Grump, Andy, hope you guys are all doing well tonight. Hope you're doing well too, Nick. You gotta love the little golfer on that one, on that little that Islanders emblem. Brian J here saying, let's go Mets. Brett Batty goes yard with the call up. Scott L saying, good evening. What's up, Scott? Matthew S excited about the crossover as always. Drew L saying, yeah, but hi to fantasy football. That's right. I didn't mention this earlier, and I forget. I always forget certain things. We're going to be doing a fantasy football league for those interested. I know people have asked. They want to go ahead. I am totally down to do it. The best ways to reach out to us, if you're interested in doing a fantasy football league, send me an information on Twitter. Go ahead and message me on Facebook. Message the Islanders Never Say Die podcast page on Facebook. Okay, that's at Twitter. Go ahead and leave a comment in the YouTube section. We'll find a way to reach out to you. We'll give you our email address. Our email address actually is IslandersFansUnited@gmail.com. Send us an email any way and every way if you want to be in a fantasy football league full of fellow Islander fans. And Drew L mentioning here, Ratu Didn't score a point today, but he was on he was on shift there for the most goals Finland scored as well. Apparently played well there today. JG says here, just got my Dynasty book today. Looking forward to reading it. Thanks, guys. Grumpy there from Greg on Greg Prado.
Greg Prado, a book called Dynasty History of the Islanders from 1972 to 1984. Excellent read if you're an Islander fan.
Grumpy, you missed it, Andy. Grumpy was probably the happiest I've ever seen him on this podcast when they were talking about the glory days in the Dynasty for hours. They were loving it. He was in the heyday.
I like winners. Shoot me.
Was he like Al Bundy watching his high school football tape? Like
number 33.
How good did it feel watching them slide in wrist shots from the blue line against stand-up goalies? Did it feel great?
It was fantastic.
It is difficult for me to watch some of that stuff, man.
It was phenomenal.
One of the I'll briefly. I mean, this is very bad, but there's a contingent of people out there who believe Wayne Gretzky is not even remotely the best hockey player of all time, and I am firmly entrenched in that. He is a guy who was ahead of his generation, but man, if you just look at the different levels of hockey. It's just
the equipment has changed. Goaltending equipment, sticks, all that stuff has changed. It's all changed.
Dedication to the sport and the professionalism of the sport, I think, also has risen. It's like when I look at football players and I say, well, this lineman's not 200, this lineman's 250 pounds as an O lineman. He's not 310, 320. Yeah, it was just a different time. If they were practicing and they were having the same exact mentality as they do today and they would be pushing themselves to 320, I still think they all would be relatively around the same level of success they'd have no matter what generation. Some
in hockey, the way the game was played 30, 40 years ago, the physicality was just, it was the great equalizer where, you see a lot that they don't even let you touch anybody now. It's more like
there was tons of space. You can watch those so you could be more physical, but it looked like there was eons of space. Like if you watch highlights of these games, they're gliding around. They cover so much space now. There's no room. It got so bad to the point where they had to change rules like the 2-line pass and stuff like that because there was no room to go anywhere. And it's just like the stand-up goaltending. It's just like the way I look at it is that era of the NHL is like the era of the UFC where there was one weight class and it was just disorganized and you weren't getting the best players and you were getting like many second tier athletes. And now all of a sudden, now that sport is at a point where there's no more gimmicks. Like everyone is awesome. And that it's like, it's that much harder to separate yourself in like the UFC now, the same way in the NHL. But in previous years, you have guys going on 10-year win streaks. And it's a tough comparison. And it's something that I'm never going to be able to convince a lot of people.
Right.
But especially with the Soviets not here too. Like
I said, the difference, the equipment, drastic changes in the size of goaltending equipment, the butterfly style, which Patrick Roy brought to the NHL. Yep. The sticks, the graphites, everything was just a wood stick back in the day.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Ally Afraidy went 102.5 with the wooden stick, even when like aluminum and stuff was in.
Right. I mean, so
I was watching.
There's been a lot of changes to the game, but to me, the physicality, what you're allowed to get away with, you can't do today.
So you see that? Maybe we can read these. Did that just pop up? Kadri.
TJ put it up.
We need Kadri and Miller. I want the cup now. My question is, so here's what I'll tell you, Mark. You can add both of those players, and I'll look this up in a second. It might change the Islanders' odds to win the cup by $50. And when I say $50, meaning like they're probably plus 2,000, meaning you put 100 and you win 2,000 if they win the cup. If they got both of those players, maybe it would move to 1950. It's not what you think it's going to be. So
let's.
I'm going to pull that up. Can you take over for me, TJ? Can you take over your own show for me?
Yeah, I'll try. I'll give it a try here.
TJ, I just want to comment. Rob just sent a comment in, and he said, "Could you guys please give a shout out to my son Joe? It's his first time listening. Hey Joe, Thank goodness you're listening. Fantastic. Stick around. Listen to your dad. He knows a lot more than you do. I know you don't think so, but he does. So make sure you pay attention to what your dad says. And if he says, listen to the show, he absolutely knows what he's talking about.
There it is. Welcome there, Rob. Doug R.
I give you full permission to disregard anything I say because I'm way less responsible than your father.
Doug R. said, word is Colorado has a 4-year, $6 million deal on the table for Kadri, and he's considering it. I don't want Kadri, but if he took that, it would be an ultimate slap in the face to Lou.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the Anders Lee scenario I was talking about earlier, right? They've evaluated him, what they think he's worth. 4 years is the absolute max.
Well, Sakic runs a hard bargain, man.
Okay.
You've seen it multiple times now.
But most of those guys sign back.
I hope Lou runs a hard bargain for getting the
Well, no, if you look like Brandon Saad was very great for them during the playoffs. It's like, hey man, like you're not going to be one of the guys here. The goalies let him go last year, let him go this year. Sakic's just saying, this is what I value. This is who, and even with Landeskog, right? It went to the last minute.
But then you look at Tampa Bay, right? What did they do? They no move clause. Oh, was it no move or no trade?
Dude, they just gave buckets of money to they're finished though.
But they got rid of McDonough. They got him. Yeah. They got him off the books with a no trade clause, and we're not capable. I hear, well, gosh, this guy has a modified no trade clause. So what? You move him anywhere. You can get rid of guys. All you got to do is pay him a little bit of money, get rid of them. You sell him some line of bullshit, just get him off your books. I mean, they were able to trade a guy with a full no trade clause. They were able to move him. Don't tell me it's impossible. I hate when people tell me shit's impossible. Some of TJ's little buddies.
No. Which player?
Ryan McDonough.
Okay, so this is where I'm happy to know Phil. Because there's shit like this I don't pay attention to. And, it's definitely right. I mean, it's a cutthroat business.
They played hard.
So they told him we're going to place you on waivers. And that means, yeah. So then he goes, okay, I'll waive it. That's a hell of a lot different than just saying waive it and force him to. That's using gross hardball tactics, which, hey, no, I'm not against it. Not against it. So if you can do something like that, then sure. I also do think you take a page out of the Blues book and take a fucking page. So, I'm sorry, what was the kid's name?
Joe.
You shouldn't curse. Joe, you shouldn't curse. And you really shouldn't. But Tarasenko, they made him available to Seattle if they wanted to take him. And despite him being at his lowest stock point, you just don't sell somebody at their lowest point. You don't sell a stock while it's 10. You have to fight your way through it. If they traded Tarasenko right now, think they're going to get a little better than last year. So if you despise a guy like Palmieri, you have to let him play. You have to let him build at least let him go through one of those streaks like he did this year where he's hot. And you've got to get his stock up because you're
okay. My point is, I never would have re-signed him. I never would have traded for him.
I know. Oh, look. There's only so many dead horses we can kick here,
right.
Grumpy.
Now, TJ,
that horse is barely moving.
TJ, I need you to put a TVMA warning on this because of Andy.
No.
So I usually these have been little curses. These have been curses. I never kid. I don't drop the big ones.
Yeah. It's like little white lies, Grumpy. They're not real lies, just little ones. Just boop, boop, boop. Little ones.
I still think F-bombs get you the TVMA. I believe.
No.
I dropped an F?
Yes, you did.
No, it doesn't matter.
That's when you apologize to Joe.
Adam S. said super quiet off season besides hiring coaches.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. You know what I was thinking? I said it earlier this year. Do you think the Minnesota Wild fans, I want to follow Minnesota Wild Twitter and only that. Are there fans, they haven't won a playoff series in decades. They just let one of their best players go. Do they have a miserable contingent of fans like Long Island, or are they just up there in Minnesota and they know, okay, let's say, oh, we lost Fiala, let's go. We got good prospects. Are they miserable, or am I just not seeing it because of the algorithm?
I think they've got reasons to be somewhat optimistic. I mean, they've got a lot of reasons to say, "Yuck, we've got some really bad contracts." Not as bad as some of the contracts on the Islanders, but
They
when
bit the bullet.
when you look at Kaprizov, you go, "Holy shit, this is a guy that we can continue to build."
I don't think you know what it's like to be them. They've had number one seeds in the like everything they do seems to implode. Even when everything goes right, they've had great teams and they keep losing in the first round. They're the Leafs that no one talks about.
I like what Guerin has done in the last 2 years, right? He comes in, they had a terrible cap situation. He buys out, and it's going to hurt them next year too. He bought out Parise, Suter. They had the issue where they had to move Fiala this offseason. You got to sign
Who did they buy out?
They bought out Suter and Parise last year.
What ages were they?
In their 35,
Roughly.
36, whatever they were, old.
Remember that, Isles fans. Remember that when you're crying in a couple of years because we can't sign another person because we've had to buy out Kadri.
Right. And now, the whole thing with Minnesota was, though, that's when they were able to get 11-year contracts. They both signed 11-year deals.
Yikes.
At whatever they were.
The same offseason.
At the same offseason. So, but they knew at some point in time, you have to make the hard decisions, right? They bought those guys out because they knew they had to restock. And I mean, I think you would have to consider this last year for them a success because of the guys they had to buy out. They had limited cash to spend, and they still were really good. I mean, I think they
were more than really good.
Didn't
they had that series. They had that series in their control.
St. Louis, right?
Yeah, they were, I believe, up 2-1 in that series. They were favored to win the series, and then they just lost, I believe, 3 straight. And they came out, I believe, game 1, and I think they won in the first game in St. Louis. I think they won like 5-0 or something.
Yeah.
They. I don't know what the hell happened. It was a great year for them. Great year for them.
And you had at the end of the season, Guerin practically took a dump on Fiala. Well, yeah, he played good for a couple of months. They were not heartbroken to lose him. Absolutely.
We're not going to get rid of a guy like Dumba to go ahead and get rid of a guy who had a few good months and didn't play well in the playoffs. I think is kind of a paraphrasing of what he said.
Yeah.
What did they? They must have got a decent return from LA on that.
They wound up getting that first round pick. So it was like a later first round pick in the 20s, and then a young defenseman
and a second round or 2, I believe.
No,
was it 2 picks and a player? No,
the first and the defenseman.
Okay, for a guy that they were not going to re-sign.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, they made the determination that he's not part of the solution. Move on from him and get something.
Coach Jeff wanted us to talk about, can you guys discuss how embarrassing it is watching NHL Network looking at free agent signings by each team? They skip right by the Islanders. How embarrassing. The Islanders, as of right now, and I'm sure they have signed a free agent, but they're the only team that has not announced the signing of a free agent, the only NHL team that has not done that. And we talked about it before. It's got to be those ticket sales reps have to have the hardest freaking job this offseason. They have to just be cursing Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders organization every single day they go home from work, just trying to do anything they can to entice somebody to buy season tickets. Hell, they even try to say, we're going to be all entered in, guys, in the what is it, the Mega Millions, if you go ahead and get your season tickets now. If we win the lottery, you're going to be getting some incentives back your way.
Is this the fantasy football? And nobody plays, more fantasy DFS. You see that logo on the bottom right? There's not a damn listener of yours that's entered more tournaments than I have. However, is it the product of fantasy that has made people think that just because you make moves, that means it's a great offseason? Like, I just don't understand. I get it. We could hope for tweaking. But, man, the same way you have GMs who do panic signings that I disagree with, I think you have fans who have panic seasons. Everybody is over panicking. And I know I have to keep reminding everybody that. But it's unbelievable.
Here's the way it is. Every fan whose team doesn't win wants to see their team make moves just for the hope that we can win next year. And when they see what the result was last year and we don't make any moves, they're like, well, gosh, how are we going to get better if we have the same cast and crew there next year? That's
I guess you could argue that there were subtractions. There were only subtractions between, like, on the back end and
Romanov for Char, I think, is a huge plus. I think that helped us out in a big way. I didn't like the price we paid for Romanov, but I think he helps in a big way and he fits us.
Yeah, you don't know that until this is the Islander fan base, right? So when I catch Dobson just turning over a puck that ends up in our net, I have to say, no, you're supposed to play 18 seasons before you can judge a defenseman. You don't truly know Romanov's ceiling. Oh yeah, they are. Not only are they justifiers, they're selective appliers. So when they say it's fine getting rid of Taves, and I go, the guy barely played. You didn't see his best. And then they start saying, how could you get on Dobson? He's just starting. Meanwhile, Taves walks in. It's the selective enforcement. And I know Taves was a little older. I don't care. He didn't play the NHL games.
People forget Taves only played a year and a half in the NHL before he was traded. That's it.
His points with the Islanders, it always gets up. Yeah, it's hard to see he was going to be better than Poole. Oh, really? Because he got minimal ice time. He was the third pairing that first year, and then the second year he got a little bump. Anyway, we're not going into that.
But Scott Mayfield played his best hockey when Devon Taves was his partner.
What does that tell you? Well, every partner seems to magically elevate when Taves is eating up time next to him because.
But see, that was a good mix. You had Taves could be a little bit more offensive when you have somebody who's a more defensive partner like Mayfield back then. You can't because everything that Scott Mayfield doesn't do well, Taves was really good at. And kind of vice versa. That's why they were such a good pairing together. I hated that we moved him. It drove me crazy.
Here's what I'll say. We've seen how Mayfield looks by himself in 2 straight seasons. There's a bunch of deficiencies when it comes to a whole bunch of things. Gap control, taking himself out of position, not knowing what it's not that they played off of each other. The same way everyone's blaming Char. Char is ruining everything for Dobson. Taves was so good that he eliminated almost all of Mayfield's mistakes, and then that gets disguised as, they just work in tandem. No, mother effers. See that, Joey? We could stop the F before it comes out. He's making it up, and that's one of the many things. But remember, I'm a huge Mayfield guy, even by himself. If you can just get to playoffs.
But see that's they were such a good pairing together, and the same thing with Pulock and Pelech. Perfect. I don't think they've been as good as 2019 was their best year. I thought they were great in 2019.
It's because everything fits so perfectly. They would get the top pairing, Taves and Mayfield. I really wanted our team to be built around 3 lines of defense as long as we had Trotz as our coach. That's why I never, ever stressed about the forwards, ever. But now it's changed. So I'm not going to be as hard as I was on Dobson this year. I'll be more forgiving of mistakes, but that's because of the way I would project I would hope that the Islanders score more. I think they will.
I think they will. They're going to have to engage the defense a little bit more. I think you might have Robin Salo maybe, and I've advocated for maybe bringing Calvin DeHaan back to play 50-50 with Salo in regular season to team with Mayfield as your bottom pairing guy. And this way you can have the veteran, let Salo, if he hits some bumps in the road, have him sit. I think that's a kind of a nice, healthy mix. Have Romanov and Dobson and Pelech.
It's weird, though, because there's no way you're not playing Mayfield against good offensive players if they make the playoffs. Like, he's very effective again, Yeah,
but you can always mix and match guys come playoff time. And everyone does that. Everyone does.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about regular season, because let's be honest, you want to have it where Salo at the end of next year is just ready to step in, because we're not going to re-sign Mayfield.
It's a weird pairing, though, man. That's a tough one. Their skill sets. It's a weird one, man.
See, really I think that Salo could be the puck mover that Mayfield needs to play with. Or DeHaan.
You need somebody. It's weird with Mayfield. You need someone who's pretty good defensively, because, like I said, he takes himself out of position. Like, you can't put a liability with Mayfield. We've seen that. Like, when you put him with someone, like, he no problem with Pulock or Pelech. He's even okay with Andy Green a little bit. But you put him with someone who struggles in their own end at times. It's a tough one.
Well, see, that's why you have. That's why I think the combination of a Dahan and Salo. Salo gets to learn the game. He works with Dahan. I mean, I'm not a big Dahan fan, but he's capable of playing bottom pairing minutes. And he's a guy who can play defense. So, I mean, if you can, for me, it's about getting the young guys ready to play, getting ready for the transition. That's what it's all about. Because I don't think we're good enough to win a Stanley Cup next year. We're just not.
I was about to ask. Now, I think that's a good transition in, and we'll also be showing up comments. And if I feel like, hey, we'll mention them just because we got a good free flowing conversation.
Yeah, and you could send the meme ones, TJ. By the way, you think I don't know what you do over there? You're such a nice guy. You see the mean ones. He pretends like they're not there.
Here's the thing. I'm not. Here's the thing. I will never show a mean one of a guest or prior guest. I'm just not going to do that. I don't mind mean ones at myself or Grump. I don't care about that. But you're a guest. I'm not going to do anything like that to you. I know you got thick skin, but still.
No.
And that's why I try not to do it. It doesn't matter.
You think I do a comedy podcast and I can't handle one of these people? What did he say?
I know you
Scott
can.
Baio's son. I mean.
Now, Andy, I don't need you alienating our fans. Please.
Well, no, I wanted to ask
by calling them
a guy like Kadri. What do you think is needed in order to migrate this team into being, back to where, hey, we're in the playoffs and we're going to be a serious contender to win the cup? What do you think is needed? Because Grump and I have talked about this, but I'm interested in your take.
We've had a massive hole for 5 years, and it's not having, and I bring this up every time, having a true lefty on our power play. And interestingly enough, although, Kadri's a lefty, but he's not someone like, he worked best in that bumper position, the in-between position over there. So like to have him control the puck along the half boards, I don't know. But we have not had a lefty, which has forced our power play to use 5 righties in this weird rotation with a little bit of Beauvillier last year. But Parisi's best spot is in front of the net. You need the dual threat lefty, one that can pass and shoot, and it's why our power play goes long stretches of struggling. We've needed that for years. But I have a different philosophy when it comes to success in the playoffs. I'm very against one-line superstar teams. If there was one thing that the Islanders that you saw through both postseasons, each line got hot in different series. The Barzal line did nothing in the first round. Then they took over the Boston series. You've seen the Nelson line take off. You've seen the Pajot line. That, I believe, is the best chance to have sustained success in the playoffs. I weirdly prefer the Islanders style of having like 7 25-goal scorers because the top pairing on the other side mostly gets wasted. If you have a Hedman or someone, what are they going to? That means they had to go up against Leo Komarov and Barzal. Okay, well, then that's opening up the second line. And I am a fan of multiple lines who can score. So I am not that against the way that the Islanders constructed the team. If they were able to get a one-year Pacioretty, someone who could hit 40 goals, that's what I would have been supportive of. A random other center to try to integrate into the mix. No, the thing that they have going for them, they truly would only need to win one difficult series if Colorado were to get eliminated. That's the crazy thing. You beat a Rangers, a Pittsburgh, whatever. It's the same thing that the Islanders and Rangers were in these last 2 years. You're getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Can you elevate for that one tough series and then hope that someone does your dirty work and gets rid of Colorado? Because there's not a damn team on the other side you can't beat in the finals. They're all inexperienced teams. Nobody's been they're all trying to come up. It's why if you look at the favorites to win the cup, the first is Colorado. The next 6 are from the East.
You just have to hope you're not in the wild card spot at number 8 and you're getting lumped together
correct.
in the Atlantic teams. Yeah.
No, correct. You need the 2 or 3 just to stay in that. It's no coincidence. Isles, Rangers, same spot, same scam. And they ended to the same team in the same spot in the Lightning.
I'm just going to say I would kill if we had 7 25-goal scorers on his team. I would kill if we had 7 20-goal scorers on his team. We don't have that's the whole problem. We don't have guys who score that many goals.
Well, we did this. All right, so we're gonna do it quickly. Barzal can obviously hit 20.
Hopefully, yep.
I see, but you can't do that. I'm not trying to play games. Like can they? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Nelson, obviously.
Yep.
Lee, obviously.
Mhm.
Can Pajot hit 20 goals? Now, remember, his main job is do the best you can, shutting down the other team. But still, even in that role, he can still hit 20 goals. So that's almost like a double entendre there. And Beauvillier can hit 20 goals. You're already at like 6
That's
there.
5. That's 5.
5. Okay, so Wahlstrom, you want him on the top line? Can he hit 20 goals? So this is what I'm saying. Many teams, Islander fans, you need to hear this. Many teams cannot boast 5 to 6 players who can score 20. And if you don't believe me, go look at all the rosters in the NHL.
Though was like best case scenario. Jean-Gabriel Pajot has been a pro for how many years now? He's had 10 years. He's had 1 year where he scored more than 20 goals. I'm like, can he? Yes. But I'm like, I try to play it where I think that I'm like, I don't think it's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think. I don't think we're going to have every young player. Like, I would like that a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom, guys like Kiefer Bellows, young players step up. They feel 100% confidence. Now they're getting the carrot instead of the stick. Maybe it allows them to push forward. They're still going to have lulls throughout their season. They're still going to have struggling points throughout their year, but it's never going to be as bad as you think, and it's never as good as you think. But it's like I don't know. It's tough.
Remember, I'm not saying that they're going to do that. What I'm saying is when you get to playoffs, you have 3 lines of 20 goals, 20 capable goal scorers. A guy who can score 20 goals, maybe not this year, but the next year, he can score. Given the opportunity, he can score. He's not some stone hands like, oh my God, all playoffs long, I was waiting for Brandon Hagel to score. He couldn't score a goal. He couldn't score a goal.
You want to talk about a scam? Yikes. Brandon freaking Hagel.
The only positive for Brandon Hagel is he's only 23 years old.
Yikes.
That's a positive.
That's
a positive because I thought they gave up way too much to get him. Now,
you know that feeling when someone comes down on a 2-on-1 and you just like, Martin has the puck. He's not going to be able to bury it.
But
I'm just saying that faith that a guy, even though if he's not a 30-goal scorer, you've seen Pajot score many goals like that. You've seen Beauvillier score. Like you've seen the guys score. They can score is all I'm trying to say.
But like for me, you look at Hagel. He scored a boatload of goals for Chicago. And when he played in a different system, he was nowhere near as productive.
Well,
and I think that's
going to do something different.
Well, there you just answered your Pajot question. You literally just answered. You want Pajot to score 20? Fine. Put him on the second line. He'll score 20. But you want him to shut down Barkov?
But that's not the style we play. That's why I'm just saying I would kill.
Maybe. We don't know. We don't see. True. We don't know. That's the big mystery of this year.
I mean, and you look at Kadri, right? He had the 32. How many was the highest before that? 25?
I looked recently. If you screenshot his and you screenshot Palmieri's, it's the same fucking guy.
Yeah. It's 2. See? TVMA. Maybe
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We let him go all the time. Or I let him
Sorry, Joey. Sorry.
Maybe Joey's 20 years old, Grump. We have
imagine Joey's a retired firefighter and he's like, what are you guys talking about?
I'm gonna bet he's not.
Oh man, I tell you. I think there's a lot of work that still has to be done in the playoffs, right? We talk about it all the time. It's a different animal. It's a totally different game. It's the same reason why teams that are ultra talented but don't have the grit or the physicality factor struggle. And it's why, if you're a fan of one of those teams, you're stuck pulling your hair out because things that are penalties 82 games of the year just aren't called and they're turned a blind eye to. And like the whistle gets jammed down in the pockets. That's always the thing that frustrates the living hell out of me about NHL playoffs. I think it does for a lot too. It's just a different set of rules where it's just, ugh.
Is what it is. What it is.
I suggest that you don't watch any hockey prior to the lockout then, because what you think about playoff hockey now, that was regular season and playoffs. You'd go 4 overtimes, no goals. Western Conference Finals was the 7th seed versus the 8th seed, Wild versus the Anaheim Ducks, 0-0 going into double overtime because everyone played the trap and there was a 2-line pass. You weren't allowed to do stretch passes back then. So you put every...
Was that with Jean Giguère? Or what the hell was his name? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He was really good in 2003.
He was hot. Halak was really hot for that 1 year way back in the time period.
He won the Conn Smythe. As a goalie, he won the Conn Smythe.
Even though they lost the cup to the Devils. That was the last time Lou won a cup. 2003.
Oh man, oh
It's a
man.
long time ago. That's 20 freaking years ago. 20 years ago. You know what? Here's the thing I love from fans. This is my favorite one. What do you know? Lou has won 3 Stanley Cups. How many have you won? I said he's won as many. I've won as many as he has in the last 20 years. None. He's freaking 80. Sorry.
Oh man.
You know, when all is said and done, he did a pretty good job.
He's done a great.
You
He's served
know,
his purpose. He's done a great
That's
job
right.
here. Fantastic.
He did exactly what they brought him here to do. He once again, like I mentioned earlier, he brought respectability back to this franchise and this organization. And Barry Trotz got the absolute most that he could have out of this group of players. But you know, like I said, at some point in time, okay, that little run is over now. It's time to transition away from it, go into the modern NHL style. And that's what I love what they did in the draft this year. They drafted players that play 2022 hockey. You're blowing by these. Are these good comments?
Some of them.
Yeah, I mean that's the TJ needs to put more stuff like that, because I can assure you there's a contingent of people who are disgusted watching me and they enjoy seeing something like that. You're hurting yourself, TJ. I'm not kidding. Like I know.
Oh no, I'll do the ones. I'll do the ones.
I know.
Well, what'd they
how to
say?
move the needle.
They said it looks like Andy eats. He's a guy who he flexes in the mirror, looks at himself, and eats candy cigarettes. I'm like, oh man.
Oh wow, candy cigarettes, man. I don't know where they're digging that one from. Do you eat candy cigarettes, Andy?
Halloween.
No. If it makes you feel better, when I moved to California, I got a real big humbling because I was probably the most disgusting person there. So you don't have to worry about me pumping my chest or whatever the hell it is that you said.
Oh, Jesus.
I've had to take my humble pie. I can assure you that.
Here's the thing about the candy cigarettes. When you first pull them out, they used to have the little wrappers around them. You blow into them, a little puff of sugar smoke would pop out.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was filming a parody of something from the 80s, and in Long Island, in my town where I grew up, there's a guy who opened up an old candy shop, and it's still there. And just within a month, I got those exact things you're talking about, the fake cigarettes that you blow into and the puff comes out and it shows like a little tin foil at the end that almost mimics the light.
Yep.
And I absolutely.
That's when smoking was cool, you know. So hey kids, this is your future. Smoke them up, Johnny.
It was, man. I remember that. You used to blow smoke right in people's face at the diner like that. It used to just.
They used to have ashtrays at every table of every restaurant you went to.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, seriously, if you see someone smoking, it's almost like, oh my God, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
it is interesting. They really, they did it 1 inch at a time. I mean, I hate to say it, Grumpy, but I mean, it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's funny how things change. Now they just sell cigarettes to developing countries. So,
yeah.
The UK, everybody still smokes like that. Greg, though, did say, Grumpy, instead of a book about John Spano, what about a grumpy old man oral history? Grumpy. Oh, no.
And TJ can narrate it.
Oh, TJ has a great voice. Doesn't he have a good voice?
The best, and I'm not kidding.
Seriously, you could be on anything with that voice.
The worst problem is he would have to, since he can't read, he'd have to like improv a full book. As I said, he should like do like, soothing tapes, the ASMR type stuff, but he can't read, so he's just going to have to make it up as he goes.
If we're given a deadline of 1 year, we're going to have to add, it's kind of like a construction schedule. You're going to have to go ahead and add another year on it for my tardiness. You have to add another year on it for every time I'm having to reread same lines and paragraph over paragraph. So it would be stopped up. It would take forever and ever.
That makes no sense.
Would you do radio? Would you do live radio? If someone gave you the job,
I don't even know what
someone said, dude, I listened to that podcast. I know you don't know, but man, that voice, we need it on there.
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
Sure.
We'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah.
You do. He does have a good voice. He has absolutely a voice.
The best. He has the best voice.
Yeah.
Drew L brings up an interesting point, and now this is something that some have been talking about on Twitter. I feel like Phil's facts get so much. He gets so much run on the show. Doesn't matter if he's on or he's not. And I know we always
Phil's
joke.
a good guy. We love Phil.
I know.
He's easy to pick on.
But
he lived in a bomb shelter up north. So,
Phil has been supporting, and some other fans have been supporting the idea of bringing in a guy like Phil Kessel, perhaps. What do you think of the idea? Because people have brought up Sonny Milano is not signed still. He's a Long Island boy. Phil Kessel's not signed. Could we maybe see the Islanders interested in him? I think it's a lot of now we're just trying to capitulate and we're trying to go ahead and make a bad situation or bad signings into, oh man, how can this be the best situation for us? And we're trying to squint and see a good scenario out of something that's not. I mean, what do you guys think about Phil Kessel, though, bringing in a guy like Phil Kessel to the Islanders?
It's the same exact thing, but on a lesser scale. And you bring up Sonny Milano as Kadri. They don't move the needle.
I thought you were going to say Parisi. Like, I thought it'd be more comparable to Parisi, an older winger
I think Parise's better than him at this stage. Parise,
yeah, I'm just saying,
but
Kadri's different, dude. I mean, Kadri is look, I don't want them to sign them more than you, I think, but next year he's going to be a good player.
I think but he's not a difference maker. He's just not a difference maker. And you look at Sonny Milano or Phil Kessel. It's like, what do those guys do? I mean, are they guys we need top six guys? No. They're more bottom six guys. I mean, we're filled.
All right. TJ, so you know what? These damn complainers, then why don't you do a competition? It's Price is Right style. Have these people guess what minute you guys start. And obviously you're not going to rig it to make somebody win. Who knows? Maybe TJ will. But have them put in some raffles.
Oh,
and look, you're not gonna give them anything. But if somebody can guess. If somebody can guess the exact minutes, Price is Right style, then I don't know. Whatever.
That is actually a cool idea. We can make a further. I thought that was funny. I'm the housewife's character that's always doing the makeup and running late all the time for those listening to the podcast format afterwards. But if you tweet at us or Facebook at us what time you think the actual next show will start, again, we have no reason to try to time it up with a buddy of ours. We'll make sure to give you guys run because, I mean, you know as us, it's a freaking guess as when the show's actually going to start. It's going to start around 8.
Only one entry per person.
One submission a person. That's a good idea.
Yeah, none of these apps where you can edit it later on. We need that time-stamped, screenshotted. Don't run scams because I'm the ant. I'll out-scam you. I'll know what you did. All right.
Oh man, I'll tell you. But yeah, so again, more middle six to bottom six guys. We have depth, and I think the point that you had brought up before, Andy's 100% right. It's really tough to win a cup as a one-line team. It's the same reason why Colorado, I'd say 2 years ago, was a very one-line centric team.
Yep.
And they were able to kind of get rid of that, and they had more depth to the team, and they were you're going to have to rely upon scoring fluky goals from bottom six guys and from defenders that you wouldn't necessarily expect that don't contribute a lot during the regular season, but a guy getting hot as a bottom six player who's able to score you a goal or two in a series that could really make the difference. You have to rely upon the depth.
It's perfect that you mentioned that. It's great that you mentioned Colorado because the exact guy we're trying to sign proves both points.
Yep.
Last postseason, and I keep saying last, but not this one that just ended, the one before it.
2021, yeah.
Yeah, Kadri has a huge first round. They're a two-line team. They were a two-line team all season. He does one of his moves. And remember, this is supposedly the older, mature Kadri. Now just gets himself suspended against Vegas. Their lack of depth cost them that series. The depth that they had the previous series then cost them when because they had 2 first lines. Vegas had 2 first lines. They had the first line that went to the cup, then they brought in a whole separate first line with Stone, Pacioretty, and Stevenson. So they had 2 first lines, and their 2 first lines beat that top line once it went cold after game 2. And then the following year, round 1, the McKinnon line does nothing. The Kadri line steps up. Next round, McKinnon starts to explode like halfway through it. You need this or you're finished. It's just the truth. You need multiple lines. Every line, the best players go cold. And you just saw how quickly it can change. Barzal did nothing in the Penguins series. He dominated the Bruins series and
he was
dug
really
us from the dirt in the Tampa series
That's
many
right.
times.
He was like the only forward who showed up in the Tampa series.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, and it's the depth is crazy important. I'm not trying to undersell that, but man,
What about the guy? The guy. You want one thing we could change so we could have 3 lines of 20 goal scorers? Because you know who's not scoring 20? We're still here again, man. I've known you guys. What are we going on now? It might only be a year and a half. But that guy just sinking down that line, and they had to healthy scratch him last year, which at least told me they finally know.
We can't possibly be talking about Josh Bailey, can we?
Well, look, everyone knows now. Everyone knows. And by the way, my ultimate thing, if you ever want to shut someone from Twitter up, because I'm obviously confident about hockey, got your followers who said something, I say, all right, then let's put $2,000 on what you're about to say. And then you get silence. When you actually make people come to the table and stand next to their opinions, they disappear. That's what Twitter is. The Twitter disappearing acts. Anyway, Bailey, he's a line ruiner. And you said it last year, and it's just wholeheartedly correct. Not as from a team perspective, but he's a line you send him to the line, you want to go cold.
To die.
Yeah.
That's right.
Bad,
It's true.
It's bad. It's bad. He's slow, turnovers. Just
He's
stop
smart,
giving
though.
him the power play time.
He's like Ogilvy from Bad News Bears.
Grumpy, you spoke very highly about Josh Bailey before. I've got a clip of it, so don't try to pretend like you don't like Josh Bailey. Give me a second here.
I love Josh
They don't
Bailey.
let that stuff go, but we got too many softies on this team. Hey, Mr. Softy, can I have a little softy?
That's your rendition of Mr. Softy?
I like the Josh Bailey special. You know, the kind that melts in your hand as soon as it comes out of the stick. That's what I want. How about, what's the tall one over there that's all limp? Oh, that's our Brock Nelson banana split special. Blah. I mean, these guys suck. I'm just sick and tired of their weakness back there. They're just terrible. They sicken me. Their weakness sickens me. But Josh Bailey, just the way he passes the puck up the boards, picked off. Ugh, disgraceful.
I don't even remember what time period that was from, Grumpy, but anytime I think about dissing on Josh Bailey, I always thank Grant for clipping that. That's always the clip I think of, Grump.
I love Josh Bailey. He's my favorite player.
Sunday dinners, Grumpy.
That's right. That's right. His mother won't even let him come over Sunday dinner anymore. He's so soft.
What % chance do you believe that he's seen one of your clips?
0.
Probably.
Zero.
I know.
I bet the front office have seen it. The front office has seen it, though.
It's higher than 0.
No, I don't think any of those. Here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. If you're a professional athlete and you ever, and I mean ever, take any freaking credence or any weight into what 2 guys who sit on the computer talk about with you, you are so fucking mentally fragile. You need to wake the hell up and just not pay attention to it.
100%. 100% he's seen the clip.
You think he's seen it?
I never said he was affected by it. I just wanted to, did he see it and just like these? Fuck.
Here's the thing. I don't think they've seen it. I don't think it even crosses their orbit. I don't think they even registers for those guys.
It's human nature. I think you. So look, I know a couple people who work in entertainment, regular working actors. You'd think, they don't check that stuff said about that. They check.
Listen to me, Andy.
They check.
Me picking
I feel like we're having a surreal moment, Grumpy. We need to go on a Josh Bailey apology tour.
Me picking on Josh Bailey is like a cottage industry for this show. That's just something it's hard. I try not to do it. But TJ will say something to provoke me, and it just happens.
I'm now at fault.
Look, it comes with the territory. I mean, that guy Skip Bayless has been ripping on LeBron James for 15 years. It's just one of those things.
He just signed a 2-year extension for $97 million guaranteed.
Unreal.
I thought you were going to say. I literally thought you were talking about Josh Bailey, not for the money, but when you said he signed a 2-year extension.
Now, what has surprised me if he tries to get re-signed for another 5-year deal at the end of this one with 1 year to go?
No,
I'm telling you, the healthy scratches told the tale last year. They knew he was detrimental to the team. Even with the semi-injuries, we were banged up, and they still healthy scratched him. They know how bad he is. He's bad, man. He's bad. And obviously, I'm defending multiple people on this team who had very subpar years. Yeah, I believe Beauvillier absolutely can get over 20. I believe Parise can get 20 the way if he's still as fast and playing top 6. I believe Pajot can hit 20 now that he's healthy.
There's one right winger you didn't mention. There's one right winger you didn't mention that I think that can hit 20.
Wallstrom.
Oh, did you mention him? Maybe I just thought. Maybe I just missed him. I think Wallstrom probably has a chance to take a jump, maybe to hit 20, but that's probably like an unrealistic. That's a fanboy.
Yeah, but TJ, the thing is, I'm not a fanboy, and if they're going to let him play through mistakes this year, weren't there many games he got 11 minutes?
You had mentioned that. When I think of him, I can understand that why people would call me crazy, and maybe it's a fanboy thought of mine, but I really think he could score 20 goals, even playing on the third line if he plays power play.
You're getting hard on yourself here. 20 goals. It's not that crazy, man.
Not for
it's
a
one
sniper.
Well, even early last year, before whatever the hell happened, wasn't he our leading goal scorer through like 10 games, 12 games? All right, so he's very young, and he started. If you're going through 15 games and you're leading a team in goals, I would imagine the following year that guy can get to 20. What did he get to this year? 14?
I just want to say one thing about Zach Parise. There's no way he should be getting top 6 minutes. There is no freaking way he should be getting top 6 minutes.
Yeah,
no
yes. In theory, in practice, yes. When you start putting the lines out there, and when you're seeing certain combinations not clicking, and you're seeing work, like him, Wallstrom, and Barzal had this weird thing that worked. So it's like you see so many people flailing, like Palmieri. They've tried so many times at Barzal. It's okay. But for some weird reason, at the end of the year, those 3 showed the weird dynamics where, I get it. He was not brought there to be our first line player. We don't want him. But if all of a sudden you're seeing the best version of Barzal with the guy you didn't expect to put in your top 6, what are you going to do? It's just a weird thing. Like, what are you going to do?
I can't. Like I said,
it ain't Leo.
Well, that's true. But if there's a 38-year-old playing on your top wing, I'm sorry. You're not going anywhere.
But look, there has to be a point where you're like, look, all right, forget about if you're watching games and they're controlling the play and they're doing well, forget about the age, man. Parise looked like faster than 80% of our team.
I just think I always say hockey players age like vinegar, not wine. To me, he's nothing like he was even 3-4 years ago. He just isn't that player anymore. To expect him to go back to that is just, I don't know. I just don't see it.
He looked pretty good last year.
I like him. I would love him on the 4th line. I'd love him on the 4th line.
You know what, man? We got to do a game where we blur out the players or something, because if you didn't know the age, you would just say, who is that player flying around out there?
I'm not saying
you have age bias, and that's surprising from an older guy. You think you would stand for your own out there.
I am not criticizing his hustle at all. He was one of the only players who showed consistent effort the whole year.
He was one of the few players that I think outperformed the contract he was paid last year, too. Yes. There was only a handful of them, and he definitely did by a country mile.
Yeah.
Grump, I know that you always have to Grumpy. D-Cut wanted Grumpy.
That's right. Well, here's the thing. Andy and TJ have been talking the whole show, so D-Cut, I just want to say big shout out to Isles Misery, Rated R, that fantastic Facebook group of Islander fans who believe a lot like TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Everything is not as sunny as the Islander fans would lead you to believe.
There it is, Grumpy. I'm not selective with what I show.
Yeah, he only did that because D could probably put 14 comments about that in there.
15 comments. Just, no, I'm just kidding. Noah W said, do we think that Kadri is 100% an Islander? And I think this is important too, because it looks like we've seen a lot of rumors behind it. What type of credence do we put in those rumors? We've seen Kevin Weeks talk about it. We saw Frank.
He didn't say anything about
Kevin Weeks talked about the moves. It looked to be 4 moves the Islanders are going to make, is what it looks like. We saw, who was it? Frank
Saravelli.
Cervelli, again, who works for NHL Network, we saw him talk about it. Looks like, hey, Nazem Kadri is going to the Islanders. That's the way things seem to look. We've seen a lot of secondary sources. If we're putting them on tiers of legitimacy, your guys to work for NHL Network, I assume, are probably the most intact. And you see that as you trickle your way down, NHL scouts or guys who work in the industry, right? You've seen them talking about Kadri of the Islanders. But what do we think the likelihood is that Kadri is going to be an Islander? He says, I'm just a little skeptical. Frank Cervelli is the only credible source who has mentioned it, and it was a few weeks ago. Ever since, has been silent. I understand Lou is Lou, though. So what do we think the likelihood that Kadri will be an Islander is?
I'd say 90%. I'm not going 100 because if it was, he'd already be signed. I think there's still contracts out there from Colorado. Colorado has not said, okay, we're moving on from Kadri. You have not heard them say that. They haven't gone out and acquired somebody else to fill his spot. So I think they're hoping is, you know what? He likes the culture here. He won a cup here. He's going to want to come back and take a little bit of a hometown discount. Or maybe he's sitting out there saying, I really don't want to play for the Islanders because they're not true contenders. Hopefully somebody, maybe a Calgary or somebody like that, will step up, or Colorado will step up their offer. Until the ink is dried on the contract, he's not an Islander.
I would say that I'm trying not to do too much Housewives, but my quick thought is the one thing I saw, they're offering him $7 million. If that's the case, and they're not going to bump that, then I would imagine he'd rather play in Colorado for $6 million, unless the Islanders go to $9 million, and then he'll sign. And then if he goes to $9 million, say goodbye to me. I ain't doing a show with you next year. That's as depressing as it comes. Not really, because it's so depressing. Because like you get upset about Palmieri. Nah, I can see down the road. I can see 3 years. I can get there. This one never ends. I'm just building a new studio. This studio will be torn down way before Kadri's gone. And I can't. That's depressing. That's depressing.
Will it be built within the 7-year time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. End of the week. But yeah, it's depressing. When you do those moves, it's depressing. And it's really worked out great for us before.
The thing that drives me crazy, we keep on making the same mistakes year after year after year.
Different GMs. It was old GMs with the big contract, the big long ones, because 70. I mean, that's long, man. Anders Lee, say what you want. He signed it a couple years back in his that's what we keep saying. You brought up Miller before. Even if you give Miller a 60, at least I can say, all right, we get 29, 30, 31. This guy's 32 already. He's got a bad back. I can feel it from here.
You're not wrong on that one. And like when we look at the team down the future, and we've talked about this, we're mortgaging everything off for an all for naught. Let me ask you now, are you in? I know you said, hey, we need to at least try it one more time. Are you in favor of, if we're trying this, we need to sell every single piece and every asset we have for the future to go all in for the right now? Or are you thinking about it more conservatively, where you think, hey, with the defensive ad, maybe with another piece, we might be a playoff caliber team, and when we get to the playoffs and the trade deadline, there'll be moves to be made? I mean, like what's your standpoint as to how aggressive we need to be as an organization for right now? Are you, Andy?
Well, I think it's fool's gold to believe that, one player, like I said, here's who you're not smarter than: the people controlling millions and billions of dollars. And if they signed one big player, it would not move the Islanders Stanley Cup odds a hair, maybe a nudge, but they'll still be below every other team for them. Maybe who will they jump? They wouldn't even catch the Rangers. It's not going to be so. What I want to do is give the guys who everything is telling me they want to do it, like the stuff that I mentioned before about the deals that they were signing and stuff like that. Oh, and that was another thing about the Kadri that bothered me. You send Ho-Sang out of here. You talked about which player was it before? Where you said
Bodie Watt, anybody who has
all this stuff. I text the girl from Starbucks. Now I'm out of here because it's not gentlemanly. Everything gets you out of here. And then of all the people that you're going to bring in, Pulak takes less than market. Pelech takes less than market. What you can hate him or like him. Palmieri takes less than market. Sorokin took right around market. These guys are all saying, "Hey, we want to do this together." That's what that all tells me. Parisi takes it. Everyone, even Char coming in for minimum. Everyone's buying into the team. And of all the people that you're going to shell out dollars to, it's going to be a guy with 7 or 8 suspensions, some as recently as a year and a half ago. Don't tell me he grew into some guy, because as soon as he came back from a devastating injury from another scumbag in Kane last offseason, what did he do? Scores a game winner, should be a shining moment where you say, my God, I'm so happy to be here, help my team. And what does he do? He shits on the ice in Tampa Bay in the post-game interview. This is the kind of guy who you're talking about. Now, I don't care. In my personal life, I'd laugh. But when I'm talking about if you're running a team as strictly where you can't have a mustache, you can't have the number 68 or whatever the hell, and of all the guys you're breaking the bank for, this guy at 32 who has a lengthy list of all these issues, you're going to tell me he's not going to cross-check someone in the back? How do you know?
It's been established that Lou Lamoriello loves him. He said that'd be a guy he'd go into a foxhole with.
I get it. And I get it.
Yeah.
But when I'm just saying, fundamentally, when you set those boundaries, like if I'm Adam Pelech, I told my younger brother, look, Pelech seems like the nicest guy ever. You know, when his wife looks at him in bed, they're like, I told you to push for more effing money. Like, it's insulting. It's insulting. It is for all those people who took less than they could have made.
Well, I think those guys took less than they could have made because the guys who get paid big money chip in offensively, defensemen anyway. And I think that hurt their market value a little bit. But I think they did take team-friendly deals with that.
They did. They're not going to be UFAs anymore. Pelech and Pulak, they said goodbye to becoming unrestricted free agents, which means that's their big deal. Adam Pelech's big deal doesn't even clear $6 million. John Klingberg just woke up one morning and goes, I'll sign for $7 million with Anaheim. And Adam Pelech is making under $6. And this is just the same thing as those wacky Islander fans thinking Ratty's goal is he took so much, they all took less. So the mere fact you could even sign Kadri is only because those other guys did the gentlemanly thing. And then to send that all out the window to sign the 32-year-old, 7-time suspended guy, costing Colorado the playoffs 2 years ago, it makes me sick. It does. Casual sickness.
And I'll tell you.
Does that make sense to you, TJ? You're a fair guy.
It does make sense. It does make sense too. And one of these items too that I just cannot. I try not to continue to look towards what it looks like 2, 3, 4 years from now, but I just keep gravitating towards that. And I don't know if it's because I've seen how rebuilds can be absolutely screwed up from start to finish, and I see how you can start a rebuild, screw it up, then need to rebuild all over again. And I just hate that feeling, knowing that there is a strong likelihood that is going to be a nuke it from ground level. Yeah, selling off every single asset we've got, selling away guys like Pulak, Pelech, they're going to be sold if we're in a rebuild. Your guys, everybody from start to finish will be sold. I really do believe, because when it gets bad, it's going to be scorched earth bad. I really do. If you go all for naught for right now, it's going to be scorched earth bad.
That's what I said. It's not like one piece is going to do anything. What I'm doing is, if you have Pulak, Pelech, Barzal, Sorokin, you're not that far away. In this town, your luck can change that quickly. You don't know how quickly things can change. One Braden Point changed the whole narrative that dynasty needed to, or that team needed to turn the page, because it didn't work out. It was like 6 years, all those playoff eliminations. Then there was but Braden Point breathed this new young life into the team. And now there was this new star adding with it's like, if this kid comes and has a great year, and there's this, the momentum can change very quickly. I don't think, even when you see teams struggling, look at Anaheim, right? They're in a full rebuild. They're just doing it one piece at a time. They're not going scorched earth. It varies.
Look at Anaheim. Look at Anaheim's team. They have a lot of reason to be optimistic about their future. I mean, like it's going to take time, but that Anaheim team is still, you'd say, at least 3 years away from being a contender. That's assuming everything. You look at the picks they've had too. It wasn't like they've been missing on their top 10 selections. It looks like every single one of those they're hitting on, and the likelihood of that is just not very high. And that's the thing I always worry about. It's and like for fans too, we've embraced the suck for so long that this time period, this renaissance of the Islanders brings hope. But I could just see the freaking dark ages are ahead, and it just worries me. And I think that we are more, just like you mentioned, we're more than one piece away. I think this general manager believes that, oh, fantastic, we can have a grandiose plan of adding 32-year-old Nazem Kadri and a guy who's in his prime, JT Miller, and say, this is going to make us the favorite to win the cup. I think it definitely improves our chances, but does it make us the favorite? No, it does not.
No, dude, I didn't say they were a piece away from winning. I think one piece doesn't make a difference, but I think their team can win. Like, I think if I were to say you can put one piece on that team, I would add another horse defenseman, and then I would say the Islanders can win a Stanley Cup. If you could put a horse on the back end where you have all those guys, and then you have Sorokin, and you know my feeling about all those 20-goal scorers, it's enough to win a freaking cup. It really is. Like, you know, it's not magic. Like,
let me ask you this: if you're a betting man, if you're going to Vegas, and let's say they add pieces like that, they add Kadri, they add JT Miller. How much, if you have $100 and you're trying to play as, you know, what team you think is going to win the cup, how much money are you putting on the Islanders? I may be putting $5 out of 100. If they add JT Miller, they add Kadri, I'm putting $5 on it. And again, I think that may even be too high just because I'm an Islander fan and I want to be optimistic. How much money would you put down on the Islanders?
Well, see,
okay, let's not put like returns in or anything like that. If it's just straight, okay, who?
No, well, but the thing is, if the Islanders make the playoffs, I have to factor in that they get the easier road. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
That's what the one thing that, like, if you told me we had to get through Toronto, Florida, Colorado, I go, no way. No way. You sign me up for Pittsburgh, Rangers, and then one good series gets you in the cup. That's how I look at the shit. It's just the truth. It really is. Like, you're not going to be burdened with those early series. And is it a little bit of a scam cup? Yep. Nobody's going to remember it. Just like St. Louis's rounds versus all those nobodies they played before, squeaking. Literally, that's what I'm vying for. The St. Louis Blues have one good, tough series when the time counts, because, you know, they were beating nobodies because the West was awful, and then they scraped by that Game 7. The Islanders can win with that team if the kid can eat minutes on that second pairing or wherever they put him. That was the huge hole, and then the injury and rest. Watch these guys hit those 20s this year. Watch them hit those 20s.
I hope they do, because if we've got production like that across the board, I think it gives us I mean, like, I'll be flying as high as a freaking kite if we have guys, multiple players that are 20-goal scorers like that. I will be elated, because I'll see, okay, Wahlstrom isn't a guy who's going to be branded as somebody who can't skate and can't go ahead. He's not going to be one of those 4A type players. He does translate. He is what we saw at the beginning of last year. Wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a hoax. More of what we saw at the beginning is what to expect. It's not what we saw the 70 games after. I'll be elated, because it'll give me room for optimism, because I think, as I've said before, I think our defense and our goaltending, I think, paired together may be the best in the league. I've talked about that as a point that I'm excited about, because I think our defense with Romanov, huge plus, and I think our goaltender, when he's on, is a top 5 netminder in the NHL. Yes,
and if we play this new system, the old system allows you to have Grace in there. We made Leonard a Vezina candidate, even though he continued well the next year. But it's no coincidence that Holtby was a Vezina candidate. That's a funny one.
Same with Samsonov. All these goalies who struggle.
Yeah, but Holtby is true garbage. He can't find a home, and he was a Vezina candidate. Next year, Leonard, Vezina candidate. Come on, man. You don't have to be an analytics guy to realize that it's the coaching creating that. But Sorokin supersedes that. You don't have to play like, you know, he's the guy where if there is a system and you can push forward more, he can bail you out more. Now, I always was of the type that the defense will always get you close. So, I'm 50-50, but how many chances are we going to get with the goalie who can try to steal a little bit? So let's see how it goes. Like, lean on your best players. And if he's one of our best players, play a system that allows you to maximize his assets.
I feel like he's a guy who you could, just as you'd mentioned, you could put him in a bad situation and he could bail you out. That's why I think opening up and having a little bit more of a free and creative system can really help this team out. The big question mark for me is Lane Lambert. He may be a fantastic head coach. He may also struggle. There's questions on it.
It's the McVay gamble, man.
Exactly.
That's a calculated gamble. At least we didn't bring in
we know what
he's seen the team, and the team knows him. That's what I would call a good gamble. It's a gamble, but I feel like the weight is shifted in favor opposed to away. He doesn't have to figure everything out. Knows the line combinations, know the players. They have a relationship with him. He interim coached.
Grumpy, you look like you're about to fall asleep. Grumpy, are we
boring me?
Grumpy, you don't have any opinions on what we're saying?
Oh, I mean,
we're not making the playoffs next year. We're not making the playoffs next year.
This thing's going longer than SummerSlam. No wonder he's tired.
Oh shit, Grumpy, you don't think we have a chance to make the playoffs next year?
No.
Why?
In the wildest situation, if you add JT Miller, and I'm talking about this is the best case scenario.
You don't need to do that.
Gretzky and Bossy too. Bring in Messier.
What's the main reason? All right. Well, what's the main reason? What's the culprit?
I think we need to add a legitimate winger for Matt Barzal.
Yeah.
I don't think throwing him at wing is the answer, and I don't think saying, here you go, we're going to put Kadri on. I just think that if you're going to say this is all or nothing, last year was Stanley Cup or bust, right? We need to make sure we're not saying, here you go, Matt Barzal.
Guys. So when you see Tampa absolutely gassed all year, and when you see Vegas hobbling through the year as one of the Cup favorites, and now do you guys not see any parallels there?
I think Vegas is toxic.
Okay. You realize when we made our semifinal run last year, we only played 82 games, including the playoffs.
Yet on the back of a shortened offseason after 4 rounds of playoffs, there was such minimal time off, and they went right back into it. That's the problem.
I just don't think we're good enough. I don't think this group of players is good enough. I just don't.
Where will they what's going to cause it is what I'm saying. So when you say, "Oh, the Islanders are bottom third there," that's what killed it. Like, what's going to kill them?
We might be able to sneak through. I think if we play a team like Carolina in the playoffs, we get rolled in the first round. We get rolled because they're death to us. We don't match up with teams who have speed like that. We just don't.
We'll worry about that there. I was saying, why won't they? Like, what's going to be the cause for them not to make the playoffs? I thought we needed.
For us to be legitimately be a legitimate contender, we needed a defenseman, which we got in Romanov, and we needed 2 top 6 wingers. If we could have got Gaudreau and then some B-level guy, I'm fine with that. Then I thought we're legitimate contenders. For me anyway, we don't know what the Lane Lambert system is yet until it gets rolled out there. Kadri, let's say you bring in Kadri. How many points do we realistically expect him to have in this system?
55.
55?
The Oleg Kavasha 51.
Right? But think about that, right? I mean, is that I just think we have so many older players who are on the downside that I don't think bringing in a 32-year-old, and so you're saying bring in a JT Miller as well, and give him an 8-year extension? I mean, I would almost write the season off to make sure we get our ducks in order.
That's what they did last year. To me, that's what last year is.
But we didn't move anybody. We had guys we could have moved to get something.
Let's, like Varlamov, for example. Are you in favor of moving a guy like Varlamov to pick up assets to a team like Vegas now, who's going to be without Robin Lehner? I mean, I'm on board for it. I don't think general manager.
You need to here's why. Did you hear what I just said about Holtby and Leonard? Well, go look how Varlamov was doing before here. That guy
The
guy had a back worse than Kadri's about to have once he lands on Long Island. He couldn't stay healthy. Colorado wouldn't even play him. It was considered dumb of us to sign him. Now, in terms of like letting Leonard go and replacing him, even though it was the smart thing to do to guarantee Sorokin would come over, because it wasn't a guarantee that he was weighing the options. And then I think Varlamov helped cement that. That's Desperate Housewives stuff. But if you're to believe what they say.
No, it certainly is. I think it's 100% accurate.
Okay. So
you look at him, though, the last 3 years, just like as you mentioned, he was not fantastic. He had a good year in 2017-18, but 2016-17 and 2018-19 for Colorado were underwhelming at best.
He's an average goalie. He's a league average goalie, maybe a little bit above average. The coaching and the system is what put him over the top.
Here's the thing. Same thing I just said about trading someone like Palmieri. You need his stock to go first. There's only one way this stock's going, which is why I would have traded him when I could during this offseason.
I mean,
but let's not do it. Let's not look at all the.
For me, at the trade deadline, I don't care where we are in the standings. I'm moving Mayfield and Varlamov. They're both on expiring deals, and Scott Mayfield could get you.
If you're first in the division, let's
We're
say
not going to be first in the division.
Oh, hold on. You said you don't care where you are. I also
you're second or third. You can't get rid of it.
We were 16 points out of the last playoffs.
Dude, all right. Well, fast forward. It's the trade deadline. You're in third, close to the guy in second. You're just going to say, let's just dump it while we get. No, if you're that close, you're not going to say dump Mayfield.
I'd move
if Sorokin's play, me too.
I'd move on right now. Period.
His value is only going down from here forward. It's as simple as that. So you got it. They should have traded him. They should have.
Absolutely. And they should have moved. To me, they should have moved Mayfield. 1.4.
You know how I feel.
Well, here's the thing. I love Scott Mayfield. I love him. But at $1.45 million, don't tell me someone wouldn't give you a first and a second round pick for a guy who's a proven playoff performer like that.
Look, you have my word. If they're a fringe playoff team, then and you're going to give me that, and even if he wants to come back, then he can re-sign with us. Sure.
That was the same thing right last year. Why didn't you move a Chara for a 5th round pick or a Parise for a 3rd round pick? And then Lamoriello says, well, gosh, I had handshake guys with this deal with these. I had handshake deals with these guys.
Then Parise wouldn't have signed. He was good on his word, and then probably Parise was good on his word, and he signed for cheap again. And I don't know.
And so what? So what? He's 38. So what? I want to see. He's not the future of this team. He's not the future of this team. If you get anything for Parise, if you could have got a 3rd round pick for Parise,
you could have. It's just not good business. It's because it's going to get out there that you promised a guy you wouldn't move him, and then you moved him anyway.
I don't care.
You wouldn't sign with a team that you knew for a fact did that.
If it means that we stop signing guys who are 38, 39, 45 years old, I'm all for that. Because you mentioned earlier, well, all these guys want to stay. Yeah, because they're all in their mid to late 30s. Of course they want to stay here. No one else is going to sign them.
I really need to reiterate. Adam Pelech, okay? He was being considered for Team Canada. Stop with he wouldn't. You don't get considered for Team Canada unless they know you're good. He's not making $6 million. Klingberg moonwalked into 7. They took pay cuts. There's no two buts about it.
Well, no, he didn't take a pay cut. He took a below market deal.
Yeah. He took and that's not good.
But here's the thing: he doesn't score, so his market is lower than a Klingberg, who does put up points. I'm not saying that Klingberg's a better defenseman, but he puts up points. That's what gets paid in this league, is putting points up, not being defensive defensemen. They don't get paid.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. Look at Jan when he signed that contract. He was a guy who, number one, provided more offense than Pelech did, and he was a guy who was a shutdown, unbelievable defensive defenseman there, and not only Nashville but also Vancouver. He was nowhere near close to the highest paid defenseman in the league, and he provided some offense. He had some seasons where he had 40, 45 points, and he was a guy who was a steady Eddie, unbelievable defensive defenseman. He never got paid like he should have. It's just the unfortunate fact that they don't pay guys who are stay-at-home defensive defensemen the right value.
Carlson, what's he making? Still $11 million a year?
Unreal. Yeah.
I mean,
unreal.
why?
Hold on.
Because he puts points up.
You can't take the outliers and say that's the norm. Like, I'm going to look at some of the top defensemen, but I look at someone like
for every John Carlson contract, there's another miserable one like a Seth Jones or another miserable one
PK
like
Subban.
Nurse. Like they just love guys who put up points, and I'm just like, anyway. I mean, like I think that he definitely did take a hometown discount. I think the same thing with
Yes.
Pulak. I was unbelievably elated. Like when I put the check marks on the board for what Lou Lamoriello has done, that I think have really positively impacted this team for now and the future. Bringing Barry Trotz in has got to be number one. Bringing in our first legitimate head coach in decades. When you look at number two, bringing Sorokin over was unbelievably important. Whether that had to be through proxy of signing Varlamov, that's fine. It was a big check mark for him. And signing Pelech and Pulak to, hometown discount deals. The first time we've really seen hometown discount deals for our Islanders, I was elated. Those are the three biggest things I think that Lamoriello has done for us.
Yeah, because if you see who Pelech's lingering around right now, Neil Pionk, Nate Schmidt, and he's below those guys. Muzzin, I mean.
You talking about Mayfield?
No,
I'm talking about Pelech.
Pelech, yeah, because he doesn't score at all. That's the reason why he didn't get the money. I think he could have. Here's the thing: what's he making? 5.5 or 6?
Like Noah Dobson's going to make an inordinate amount of money, not because he's going to be.
That's crazy.
Even if he's not a great defenseman,
but he scores
because he scores.
He drives offense.
That's why I got news for you guys. If you fall for these guys, I'm going to read you the names on these lists, the top defensemen, and these guys all were the exact player that you're talking about when they were younger. Ton of points. People like, oh, Roof is it can go as high as whatever. Carlson, 11 million. Doughty, 11 million. Seth Jones, 9 million. I mean, like the chunk of contracts on here are the regret contracts.
Doughty,
like Pietrangelo making 8.8. Like nobody's gonna like these Ekman Larson 8.2. Heiskanen is great, but I mean Burns making 8.
Pietrangelo used to be
John
really
Carlson making 8
contract. He was fantastic.
But yeah, what do you mean? This is the third year in the deal. It was when Vegas gave him the big deal, like 2 seasons ago.
But it all depends on when you hit the market as well. And you got to remember now everything's a flat cap. So I mean, but here's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. They now are never going to be UFAs. They're locked in at this for their whole youth.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that it's what should happen. I'm just saying that's what does happen. And
that's very, very unfortunate.
And that's why those guys get paid that money, because they put points up. Drew Doughty's different. Let me tell you something. He was special. Absolutely.
He was.
We knew he was an 11-year deal. That's when they were doing the 11-year deals. I'd feel much better if they signed that at 8 years. But I mean, he did everything for the Kings.
I know. I'm just saying when it comes to the regret contracts like that's what I'm trying to avoid. And that's what a Kadri would be. It's like I just keep saying it. Like it's why I'm not upset with so many of the deals, because it's like, all right, 3 year Pajot will be out 3. You start talking 7, it never ends, man. Never ends. Well, and we're going to be on that list.
They keep making the same mistake year after year after year. Mm-hmm. That's just the way they do it. They don't even look at why not try to acquire a younger player and sign him to a long-term extension as opposed to getting a guy who's 30 and then giving him a long-term extension. To me, they just have it all kind of ass backwards. So to speak.
TJ, you want to know why I know they're going to get Kadri?
Go ahead.
It's for the same exact reason why I knew that Seattle was going to take Eberle instead of Bailey, because they look deep into my soul for the things that I know are going to hurt this team the most, and I see it. And I pray for one thing, and they just show me the opposite. The one thing I really do not want, like I didn't want Goudreau because I didn't want to have him into his mid to late 30s. This is a whole nother level. Starting at 32, my God.
Until he's 39.
Anytime people have to start bringing up like futuristic technologies to keep someone healthy, I think you're on the wrong side of the deal.
Yep. Yeah, when you've got to try to justify it every which way, and it's okay. I'm leaning further and further away from general what common knowledge would dictate. Usually, the gut feeling that you have, there's a reason for that. Whether it's just an 8 for you, there's usually a reason why you have that gut feeling. And sometimes guys do surprise, but don't have a wrong expectation of Nazem Kadri entering the Islanders. I think that he'll be a guy who he's a prototypical Islanders type of player, and he's a guy you hate to play against, but you love to have him on your team. A guy who I think is going to fight for every inch on the ice. That's something the Islanders, right under Trotz, the first 3 years did every single night. Fought for every inch on the ice. We didn't see that same level of fight and compete, whether that was just the exhaustion after back-to-back years in the Eastern Conference Finals, whether that was the team tuning out Barry Trotz a bit, whether it was a team getting older. I think there could have been a lot of different explanations for it, but I think Kadri is going to be a guy that we'd love to see for maybe a year or two, and then we go, holy shit. Every year that contract, we're just like, it gets worse and worse and worse. It's like a bunion. We're ready to chop off your fucking toe.
Yeah, and then the gargoyles, when I would say, like Grumpy said before, like, oh my God, it's gonna be like the Lad deal again. They go, no. Oh, so you think they're the same player? Shows how much you know about hockey. Yes, because that's what I'm doing. I'm comparing their talent levels. I'm comparing the regret factor of the contract. Obviously, Kadri's going to produce infinitely more in these next 2 years than Lad, which we never got to see. I'm talking about the regret factor when you just turn on the TV and go, oh, what are we going to do with this guy? That's what I was talking about. And he comes with years of the regret factor. If you have more than one justification, you need to just rescind your arguments. Any of those people go, yo, but there's only this many people under contract. You start listing more than one of those. You actually already answered yourself. Yeah, that is a vintage Phil, and I said right to him, like, stop with that. If you're worried about that, then you're already on the wrong side of the deal.
And here's the thing: just because we're getting rid of some of our old guys doesn't mean with this.
Oh, there's a guy. There he is, Chalky Brian John, coming in with the Islanders 101. We need a scoring winger. That's what we needed last year, right? And that's why our defense tanked, and that ruined us the year. So we come right back and say we need a scoring winger.
We don't. I thought what I said, TJ, what did I say was the most important need this offseason?
We said adding a left defenseman. And
okay.
It was the biggest need.
But we still need a scoring winger.
Yes, we need both.
Yeah, but you know what? You want to know what the difference is, Grumpy? You saw a year where the defense ruined them, and then you go, we need to address that. I came on this show a year ago and said, get the winger out of your head, and the clip's there. You can see it. We need a defenseman or we're screwed. The prophet tells you, and that's what happens the following year. And I'm telling you once again, you don't need any more forwards. That's every year, two for two. And then what the other guy was Taves. In his rookie year, I said he's the Islanders' best defenseman by far. Quoted, you could see it. This claim, I pray they don't get Kadri. The offense will be absolutely fine.
I don't know. We're in the bottom third of the league scoring every single year.
Yeah, and we were in the top 8 in defense for multiple straight years. So it takes some set of balls to say our D's going to fall through the ground.
I think that the defense is going to be spectacular. I think we're looking top 5 again in goals. Again, obviously health plays a big role in it. I'm very optimistic that our defending is going to be way better this year than it was last year, even with a newer system perhaps and a first-time head coach. I just worry about the legs of some of these older guys. I'm really hoping, and I think the best case scenario is it was the fatigue of the 2 years prior and a restrictive system that prevented young guys from playing. And it's not, oh man, we've got a whole bunch of guys who are on the wrong side of 30 that are starting to hit their decline.
TJ,
the best case scenario won't be the worst case.
The way you just put that is what, like, it's. You make it seem like, oh, I hope that over there. This happens with multiple teams. It's most likely that. If you look at the shooting percentages of many of the guys, it was under their career averages. If you look at other playoff teams who had long runs, they struggle, they're injured. It takes something out of you. The Rangers said, they said after they were eliminated, they were dead. They had nothing. It takes something out of you. The extended rest for all those guys, because they didn't even make the first round. Long off season, they're coming back with juice, And some of those other teams that went through wars, they're not. So you watch.
Some guys had really high shooting percentages last year. Some guys really struggled. I mean, like Anders Lee shooting 17.6%. That's above average. You know, Brock Nelson won't hit what he hit last year.
Yep.
There's some guys that'll play better, some guys that will play worse. I think that, you know, it's never going to be the best case. It's never going to be the worst case. We're probably going to be somewhere in the middle. And I think that leaves us as a team that's kind of towards the bottom end of squeaking our way into the postseason. And the thing I worry about, worst case scenario, is if we don't go ahead and trade away draft capital for 2023 draft this offseason. At the trade deadline, we're going to give more draft capital away, and it will be our third or fourth year in a row without having the first round pick. You don't think so?
They're not going to. Nah.
For the Islanders to be better next year, the younger players need to step up and produce more.
Absolutely.
Period. You're not going to see the older players get better. You might see them regress a little bit, but you're not going to see them get better. The younger guys must step up. I'm talking about Pavilliers, Wallstrom's, Bellows if he plays, Barzal's. Those guys are going to need to step up and produce more.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do need to step up. They need to be able to play, you know, a bigger role for us. I don't disagree, Grump. That's the big asking point. I don't think there's a reason to assume that they can't. That's what needs to happen.
If the kid eats minutes on the back end, they're fine. You heard it here first. I'm going to leave it there. If the kid can eat minutes on the back end, they're fine. I mean, I don't know, like this forward group has had multiple good stretches and their experience. Like it's other than Bailey, he's a huge liability as always. If they can get that, like that is, if you removed that, that is adding a great player because you're not crippling and handicapping the second power play unit along with, God forbid, they throw him on the second line, you know?
Here's a good comment from Goon Goon. Grumpy, who's a better dancer circa 82, 83, Michael Jackson or Mark Gastineau? I think it's Michael Jackson because Gastineau only had one move. The sack dance was always the same every time, where Michael Jackson had numerous moves.
What the hell is the sack dance, Grump? Oh, are you talking about
Mark Gastineau did a sack dance when he got a sack when he played for the Jets.
Okay. Gotcha.
It was always the same.
And again, Grumpy, this is right up your alley. I'll let you read that one too here as we're popping.
Am I the only schmuck who thought the ending of Better Call Saul could have been better? No, you're not. I mean, it wasn't a god awful as the final episode of Dexter, but still, we're going to talk about that tomorrow because I watched that episode. I religiously watched that whole TV series. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I know why certain things happened. I'm not going to do a spoiler on this podcast, but I was a little bit disappointed. Yes.
You can find that tomorrow at TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, a link in the description below, or as a feature page on our YouTube channel at 9:00. Now, we have gotten some question marks or some statements there about the negativity we're showing towards the Islanders. You know,
I would say you guys.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's us. Yeah, we're definitely more negative. I'm sure than you have been.
What's been negative?
Talking about the teams, Grumpy. I mean, like certain things you say about the teams, no chance of being a playoff team. It doesn't matter. Like stuff like that. People look at it as negative. It is negative, but you know, I think we spent a little bit of time talking about the positives, and you know, I think that you know, there's a few things that can happen that do lead to positive results. You know, I think that it is possible. In the same token, though, as of right now, to show for it, right? Kadri's still out there as a free agent. I just always find it like that little part in the back of my head says, if we sign Kadri, why the hell have we not announced it? If we have signed Nazem Kadri, why are we not announcing it? Because this is a business.
And he's a big contract.
It's a huge contract, and this is like right. The job as the business is to sell tickets, to get people in the state, get people in the arena, sell concessions, etc. If you're having a tough time selling season tickets, and this is a guy you could say, "Oop, we've signed Nazem Kadri. This is the reason the Islander fans need to be optimistic." That's something they would be branding the hell out of. They tried to brand 50,000 Mega Million tickets, and they tried to say, "This is why you need to buy season tickets." If we've got Kadri already signed, I would like to think that they are already going to announce something like that. I don't know if he's signed yet. I think he's got to be still in limbo.
Yeah. The fact that, I would say it again, the fact that Colorado hasn't said we're out tells me he's not signed here yet. I don't want him. I just don't think he's enough to put us over the top. That's all. Kadri equals overhyped and overpaid like Ladd. He's definitely overhyped, but I think he's a good player. I think he makes us better, but in the long run, it's a mistake.
And Matthew Esser said, sorry, Andy, but Johnny Gaudreau would have been a game changer.
True.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I guess it was a combination of the mix of playing for what we needed. Like if everyone's clamoring for a goal scorer, it just would have given us another great setup man. And it's just like if you were going to give one of those massive contracts, I would want it to be somebody who, was a perennial 40-goal scorer threat. Don't point at the one season of 40. I need to look at that stat sheet and see 40, 36, 40. No, he's a 2-to-1 assist ratio guy. He's Barzal number 2. You're supposed to take out the worst year, take out the best year. That's a player. That's what you're supposed to do. So whether it's Kadri or him, I just thought if you were going to sink $10 million or whatever we offered him for 7 years, it just wasn't, in my opinion, the perfect guy to add to the mix to truly help this theoretical ring hole.
Now, I know a lot of people say Johnny Gaudreau didn't show up into the postseason this year. Do you think there's legitimate reason to be fearful that a guy like that's just not one of those postseason performers going forward for a team like Columbus?
It's fluky. If the Islanders got eliminated by the Penguins, they would have said, oh, that Matt Barzal's a no-show in the playoffs. And then they squeaked through that round, and then he dominates Boston. He scored the overtime game winner against Dallas in the first round. And did he really go – maybe he went cold in the closing games, but I know he was pretty productive in the first series, and then early in the Edmonton series, that was just a bad series for Calgary, real bad. Markstrom, I don't know what the hell happened, but I wouldn't say that I saw enough to say he's a playoff no-shower. Playoff no-show has to be you're talking about year after year after year, somebody is just not getting on the score sheet. I don't think that was the case, I was definitely watching those games.
He had 14 points in 12 games.
Yeah.
Did we just invent this then?
No, we've had people come on the show. We've had comments about that saying the guy didn't show any heart out there. The guy didn't have. And you look at the last 3 games. I don't know if it's because the last 3 games and they lost the last 3 to Edmonton, 1 point in those last 3 games, and again, minus in every single one of those games in a big and in a way. So I don't know if it was it's because they lost. Man, I forgot they lost 4 in a row to Edmonton.
They did get screwed in that deciding game where they just overturned a goal for Calgary at the end that would have given them the 1-goal lead on the biggest bullshit. They declared a kicking motion after it was called a goal, and then they pulled it back, and then McDavid won it in overtime. And I only know that because it screwed me that particular game. But you could add it was clear as day that was a goal. But Calgary ran into some trouble. That was when Mike Smith was letting in slap shots from the other side of the ice too.
Oof, you're not kidding there. And Mookie Betzer says Pajot is not looking like a great acquisition. And how bad does that Taves trade look now? I don't know. The Pajot, it's a little harsh on him. Maybe.
It's the style he plays. He's a smaller guy who plays an ultra physical style. He had the injury. I mean, you just wonder. Again, he's another guy who's going to be 30. Not everyone ages well once they hit 30.
It's difficult to see. The thing is, the problem is people need to see offense to feel like a player is good. And if you're seeing the guys that he's playing against not producing, that's the bigger part of they obviously had Barzal and Nelson. It's not about scoring with him. It's about like he's the perfect complement to two offensive centers. Like if they got rid of him and brought in Kadri, what are you doing? Now we just have all these random offensive centers. Like he fits that role. He's one of the best in that role. He's only a third name. I said this on Twitter in name like Jordan Staal. But if you just want to take him out of that role, because Jordan Staal was shutting down that Pasternak line all series, and it's because that's what he was doing when they had last change at home. And that was one of the main reasons. And that's why I was telling people to bet against the Bruins, because Jordan Staal at home is shutting down everybody. And he was able to do that. And if it wasn't for and he did that against the Rangers too. But once they were giving up all those power play opportunities, that's how the Rangers were winning the games on the road, even though they only won that one game on the road. But that's what Pageau does. He's our version of Jordan Staal.
But I think we can all agree it didn't look like he had the same jump last year at all.
The aggression and the fight for every inch on the ice. Like I hate to use it, and I feel like it's I simplify it like that.
That's his
but
style.
I didn't see much of that last year from him. And that's right. And I don't know if that was still because he had the injury, a lingering injury.
He had surgery, man. He had surgery in the offseason. He clearly wasn't right, man.
Can we talk about the Anders Lee? The surgery there. Now, the one thing I've always had an issue with on Anders Lee is saying that it takes 2 years to recover from an ACL. Everybody says that. And here's the thing. I don't think ACL surgeries are that.
Not in hockey.
Well, I was about to say, for hockey, I don't feel like it's that detrimental. I mean, you're going to have surgery, but you're able to. It's not like in football where it's every single set, pam, 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 pam. You're cutting every single time. You're putting that pressure there on the knee, exploding out off of You're still doing it with skates, but your foot's not stuck in the ground like it is with a cleat. And when I see that, I'm like, I was expecting a little bit more from Anders Lee last year. I think that the pairing, I think it wasn't. I thought the effort level wasn't there sometimes, and I thought the pairing, he does not mesh well with Matt Barzal. I'm hoping that's one thing we'll get from Lane Lambert too. Is Anders Lee needs to be paired up with Brock Nelson. I think Matt Barzal does not do a good job of when he's out there and he has space. John Tavares would throw the puck towards the net off angle and let Anders Lee deflect it into the net. Matt Barzal does not do any of that. I just feel like it's water and vinegar, or it's water and oil for Matt Barzal and Anders Lee. I think that Anders Lee, to play up to a better level, he's got to be mixed with somebody that's more comparable to his skill set.
Agreed.
I don't know. It depends what you're looking for him to do. I mean, like him, Eberle, and Barzal. It's weird. Like the three have to work in unison. Like it's. I don't know. I mean, I guess, but it's tough to compare the Barzal team, the Tavares teams with the Barzal teams, because that was the no defense Islanders. Everyone got their hands on the score sheet. Like. Barzal came there and Barzal in his rookie year outscored Tavares. Like it's hard to know what it would have been with Barzal these last couple of seasons if it was Doug Weight. I mean, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's just like, I don't know. It's tough.
I just feel like there's a more comparable skill. I think Brock Nelson's more comparable skill set wise, because I think Matt Barzal is as many talents as he has. There's certain areas in his game where he's just not there yet, and bringing out the best in every player around him is something I think he could use a little bit of work on. I think he's improved a lot defensively. I think he's got innate skills like the ability to skate like the wind, the ability to find open men. He does that extremely well. But when it comes to, hey, I'm going to go ahead, instead of trying to go ahead and create extra time and space in the offensive zone, I'm just going to throw the puck towards the net, and hopefully Anders Lee is going to redirect that and put pressure and put a fluky redirection on the goalie. He doesn't do that. He's looking for, how can I create space? How can I try to find that open lane? Where John Tavares is saying, let me throw that to the net. And I think other players do that too if they were paired up with Anders Lee. I just don't think it mixes well.
You know what I just realized? I feel like you're kind of greedy. This guy scored 28 goals. That's not that. That's
how many empty
bad.
netters he scored last year?
We're doing
absolutely
that old trick.
Absolutely. He throws him out here. He throws him out there. One of the worst defensive players we have. He's always out there every single last minute when there's an empty net. Him, Nelson, the same guys. They got a lot of those goals, empty net goals.
Listen,
those don't count.
you're going to need to face the fact that I have no I've known Brock Nelson since he started here. He's nasty at picking corners. You're lying to yourself if you
I'm
think
talking
that
about Anders Lee.
I know, but then you threw it, but you randomly lumped in Nelson as an.
Well, he's another guy who scores a lot of those empty nets. He does.
All right. Anyway,
and he never shot 22% like he did this year. You look at the rest of his career. Not even
what I was expecting from Anders Lee is I'm expecting a guy who I want to see the effort. We talked about it before. Are we going to start to see ourselves moving away from Anders Lee as the captain? Is this Matt Barzal's team? Because I've always wondered. Hey, Matt Barzal at the end of the season talked about how effort level wasn't there by certain guys. He talked about it at the end of a post-game interview. He said he was upset with the effort level on there on the ice. And again, it could have just been broad statements he was making. I think that, he was just upset in general with the team's effort. I thought some guys, and I was upset with effort level from some guys this year. I'm not sure if he's trying to take a bigger step up in a leader role. But Grump, you always bring up the Joe Namath situation, and I always will botch it. But if you can talk about what they did with Joe Namath by making him a team captain, I think that would be apropos.
Certain guys, certain players, particularly ones that maybe need to have a little bit more responsibility before they can take their game to the next level. And what the New York Jets did with Joe Namath the year they won the Super Bowl, they made him team captain. And he was not a leader on the team, but Weeb Ewbank, who was the head coach, said to the leadership group, you got to make Joe captain. It'll make him more responsible to the team and the things he does. They did. It worked. He won a Super Bowl.
And you even said players were questioning that move. Like, what?
Yes, they were questioning that move. Well, he's not responding. He's out drinking, till whatever hours of the night. But
womanizing all the good things that Joe Namath did.
But the whole thing is, if you are, and it depends on the type of person you are. It depends on the type of person you are. I don't know if Matt Barzal is that type of person. I don't know. It worked for Joe Namath because he felt that responsibility to the team as they went on. And like I said, the rest was history. And that worked for the Jets back then. I'm just suggesting the best player on your team should be the captain, without a doubt. Best player on the team should be the captain. Not a guy who, like I said, I
don't know. I've been watching hockey long enough to realize that's all nonsense. Like, Anders Lee, he was there. Then he was gone for the year. They went just as far. He was banging on the locker room against that game versus the Lightning to pump them up. They got their ass kicked. I saw the Rangers. I saw the Rangers trade away their heart and soul captain to Callahan for a better player in St. Louis, and they finally made it to the Cup, and they were scoring a bunch of goals. I saw them try to sign Drury because of character, and then had to buy him out. That's all a scam, in my opinion. That whole the character guy makes the glue come together. Give me the better guy, and I'll take that all the time, because it's. Anytime you can't define something, no, but he's got the thing. Okay, well, what is he doing on the ice? Oh, he brings the grit. I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that, because I've seen more of those contracts have to get bought out.
Hold this
than anything.
Hold this comment.
These are.
Oh,
go ahead, throw it up there.
Hold that comment.
Yeah.
Question for Grump. And I love Thalia, so. Don't you feel
the compliment before the insult? Here it comes.
I say, I love Thalia.
Yeah, no, it's true. I do, because she speaks her mind. Which I don't care. That's fine. That's what we do. Don't you feel you're being disrespectful towards Lamoriello? The man won 3 cups with Jersey, and since his arrival, took the Islanders to conference finals and lost to Tampa Bay. Conference finals. Trust Lou. Okay, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 20 freaking years. His job as a general manager. He didn't get the guys to the quarterfinals. It was Trotz, because of this virtually the same team that he inherited, except bringing in a Komarov, bringing Martin back, pretty much the same team. And you want to give him credit for what? Never winning anything? Sorry. Doesn't count.
I think with anyone, whether you're talking about Garth Snow, or you're talking about, Lamoriello, there's no need to say everything's good. Praise the good moves and rip on the bad ones. Like, he locked up Nelson, like there are many contracts he got done where people are making under market value. That's a win. Those are big wins.
Yeah.
And then trading Taves is a huge loss. Like they're good things and they're shit. And it's just the way it is. I mean,
bag, with more
yes.
on the minus side, in my opinion. I don't know how he won GM of the year, probably because he's been there forever. They should just name it the Lou Lamoriello GM of the Year award, honestly. But I don't think for bringing in who did he bring in with Green? Oh, that was Palmieri, right?
Well, he brought in Green for a second round pick. That was the same. Jean-Gabriel Pageau. So that was Jean-Gabriel Pageau. We gave up a first and a second for, and we got Andy Green the same offseason because that was the year that Pelech tore his Achilles.
Well, they needed that because remember Boychuk got hurt, and then they went on that run, and it was seamless because they were able to use him in the 6 hole.
Well, that was the year when we brought in Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Andy Green. That was the year that we were on the 7-game losing streak before.
Well, I'm saying, yeah. Well, look, the COVID thing happened. We can't predict if they would have not got in. We just don't know. But when push came to shove and Boychuk got hurt without Andy Green, like he had a great playoffs that year, you know?
Yeah.
Like playing with Letty.
But then the next year he trades for Palmieri and Zajac and wins GM of the year again. I just stopped.
Did he? He did?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 years he won.
Those are the 2 years he won GM of the year. And they ain't won shit. I mean, how about the guy from Tampa Bay? Maybe he should win a GM of the year award. Brisebois.
Is that award given after?
No, it's given before the playoffs start.
Okay.
They announce it.
I thought the voting's done before playoffs start, but
it is. No,
after the playoffs.
It's more so. I think it should have been rescinded as soon as that. Oh, by the way, the one guy I looked this up. It turns out the one guy that I've been excited to watch since Kenny Janssen in Taves got traded on my birthday, really to stick it to me.
Yeah,
it's a birthday gift.
Bastards.
What a birthday gift. Max P talking about Real Housewives said, in my opinion, Barry had it out for Taves once he mocked Kuznetsov goal celebration. I could be wrong, obviously, but that's a good point. I remember that Trotz flipped a shit when he did that. Yeah, I mean, it was a dumb thing because we wound up losing to Washington after he did like the little Eagle celebration. And man, they're old school. Who the hell? I'm just saying, I could see that. I could see them doing that.
You think that's the reason we lost? Because he did the Eagle celebration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I firmly believe that. I firmly
want to
believe
make sure
that game that they lost to Washington was indicative of that celebration because there's nothing that fires another team up than doing some shit like that. We were up, I think, like two goals at the end of the first period. And he did that celebration. I was like, oof, that may come back. I think that was one of the few games we did live, or maybe I remember calling you about it. I was like, oh man, that's a freaking mistake.
I think we're up 3 goals in that game. Wound up losing 4-3.
All right. So 2 things that I want to end with. Number 1, the audacity of your viewers to complain about when you start. This thing goes longer than WrestleMania. This is almost midnight? And then I was going to say, is it all right if I
yes,
cut out and then you can have your personal goodbyes to your audience? And please feel free to insult me and break your own policies because I know some of them are just hoping you do it. You can do it, Grumpy.
No,
I never insult a guest. I never do.
No, and I don't want to thank you, Andy. Sorry, it went long. We're 3 hours and 30 minutes in. Thank you, Andy, as always, for coming on.
No problem.
You're fiery. I love it. You speak about it, and you're very knowledgeable on the team, on the sport. We love always having you on, and it's always good to check out. Again, I have this all in the link in the description below, so make sure you check out everything that Andy does. Right? He's got TikTok. He's got for those younger guys. He's got TikTok. He's got himself again. He's got Instagram. He does the podcast.
Does he have a newsletter?
No newsletter, but
because you're still right is the podcast name. He does YouTube videos.
He has a newsletter. I'd like to subscribe.
Yeah, and if you if you really are big hockey people, like I said, I'm coming back for Odds Shopper, and you can, maybe follow along like some of the other listeners, and I can help you out. If you're hurting in the pockets. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And like I said, because there's going to be no doubt about it this time. I came in, my predictions were on the money before those seasons. My prediction is as long as the kid on D eats minutes, the offense doesn't need a single person. This is going to be contingent on Kadri not being signed. But if they don't sign him, you're going to see everyone saying this is a middling, like exactly what Grumpy's saying. And I'm telling you, the offense is going to be just fine, if not better than you would have thought, with the full rest, which I attribute for the main problem, and forwards rebounding from their subpar years. That is my prediction. 1 year ahead of time.
Well, see, there you go. Everyone was talking about it being negative. That's about as positive you could get. All the old guys are going to get better.
No,
They're going to defy description, defy age.
Yeah. But then you'll keep Patton, Washington, and Pittsburgh on the back.
Yeah, as long as it's Crosby and Malkin and Letang.
Dude, they're not 33 anymore. You're talking about like 37.
But here's the thing. For me, Washington's biggest issue, I don't think Backstrom's coming back.
I think
Hip injuries are death for hockey.
Washington is long gone. They have looked so bad for multiple years now. They're finished.
And they're still better than us every single year.
I think they're done though, Grump. I think here's the thing.
I think they're on the downside too. I think that's a team we could catch for the 8th and final spot in the playoffs.
They have us with the same cup odds as them, unfortunately. But in Grumpy's eyes, I guess fortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're not winning it either. They're not winning a cup. Neither is Pittsburgh. They don't win cups.
Andy's trying to jump off, Grumpy. We're, again, thank you so much. I don't want you keeping on voting them into conversations. Thank you again.
No,
Andy.
it's all good. It's all good.
Thank you
guys.
I'll shoot you a message afterwards. Thank you so much again, Andy. You can find everything he does in the link in the description below. Thank you again, Andy.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good one. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, Grumpy. I tell you, I always enjoy when Andy's on the show. Always brings a little extra fire and passion too. But yeah, I tell you, man, we're close to closing things down too. I was about to say closing down shop. I'm just looking at the schedule here, or looking at the time. But Grump, man, what do you want to say before we wrap things up today? Oh, hold on. When are we going to have Simon Holmstrom on the show? That's the big question Tommy wants to know.
As soon as he learns how to speak English.
Oh, come on. Rob says still the best Islanders podcast around.
I love that picture. It's old Clint Eastwood right there.
Old Clint Eastwood. And again, sorry we didn't get to all the comments, guys. Sorry, it's 3 hours and 30 minutes in. I wanted to show at least a few up there. I don't want to ignore the comments because, again, we'd like the interaction with everybody else. And, Saturday, Grumpy, we'll talk about what we're going to do. It's either going to be one or two things. We'll either have a guest on or depending if they can come on or not, or we'll do a call-in show on Saturday. Again, I know there has been no move since the last time we've done a call-in show, but it will be a Saturday. No time better to do a call-in show than a Saturday on the weekend when you're feeling a little bit about the Islanders. Maybe the official first signing will be done by then. But Grump, man, what do you want to say before we wrap things up today?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Again, if you're new to the show, we invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter. This Saturday looks like it may be a call-in show, but we're going to reach out to one person there to see if they want to come on, if that works this Saturday for them. But again, thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll be live tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. You can bet we're going to be talking a lot about football. And for those of you who are unacquainted with the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show, it is an all sports podcast. We talk anything from NHL. We talk NBA, MLB, college athletics, European football, NFL, the Mac Daddy. We literally talk anything and everything athletics. And we also have Fan Fights, Grumpy, a fan favorite segment. So if you haven't checked that out, we implore you to go look in the link in the description below, or to check out a feature page on our YouTube channel where it says, check out our other podcast, TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give that a look tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Grumpy, what do you want to say before we wrap things up here today?
Love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. I thought I already did that.
Oh, maybe you did. My mistake if you did. But hey, there's not enough love and laughter that can go around. Today's Wednesday. It's hump day. We're halfway through the week. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you guys or have a great Thursday. We'll see you guys tomorrow evening on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This Saturday, we'll be interacting with you guys as well. Some more here. Thank you again for tuning in, and thank you, Grump.